Chapter 695. Clan Tribe Information. Race: Grayscaled Flood Dragon. Person: Low-level species. Type: Subhuman level. Rank 1. Upper profession: No specific profession. Talent: Underwater breathing, learning, optical camouflage skill, seawater essence, tide summoning, severe pain, devour, sudden thrust, seed explosion skill, advanced swimming, flood dragon. Person: Scaly armor, short flight, intermediate regeneration. Physique: 6'5", adult human, 1 point, strength, 8, 9, adult human, 1 point, agility, 3, 3/8, 2/4. 5. Land, water, sky, spirit. 3. Low-level intelligence, has the potential to become a spellcaster. Evaluation: an extremely weak amphibious species. Summoning cost: 2,541 incense. Power. Talent skill: underwater breathing. This creature has the bloodline of an aquatic demon beast and can absorb oxygen from water since birth. Even if it does not rise to the surface to breathe fresh air for a long time, it can still maintain a clear mind and efficient movement ability. Learning: this creature has a certain level of intelligence and can improve its abilities in all aspects through learning. If there are books, videos, and other teaching materials, this creature's learning speed will increase by 20%. Optical camouflage, a powerful talent ability. This creature can change its body color through optical effects. If it remains motionless for a long time, it will automatically change the color of the surrounding environment and disappear from the enemy's sight. It has a good effect regardless of whether it is used to wait for prey or to escape the pursuit of strong enemies. Active skill: seawater essence. As a member of the aquatic demon beast, this creature has a natural affinity with water and can quickly use its skin to absorb water to recover from injuries. Especially when it absorbs seawater, the healing effect will increase by 10%. Sudden thrust: when this creature is holding a sharp weapon, it can launch a sudden thrust to perform a short displacement. The specific displacement distance is calculated by multiplying its agility attribute by 5. If the thrust hits the target, the damage value will be calculated by multiplying its agility attribute by 3. Seed explosion: this creature has the bloodline of a high-level demon beast in its body. In a life and death situation, it can choose to unleash its bloodline power to obtain a large increase in attributes. After activating the skill, all attributes will increase by 50% for 15 minutes. After the skill is used up, it will enter a weakened state and all attributes will decrease by 70% for 3 days. Passive skill: tide summoning. This creature has an affinity with the water element. If it is near a water source, when it makes a sound, there is a certain probability of causing a tide. When this creature reaches a certain number, it can easily summon a tsunami. Severe pain: every time this creature attacks an enemy, there is a 15% chance of inflicting 10% additional damage and causing the enemy to feel as if they are being pricked by needles. Has an extremely high deterrent effect on cowards. Devour: this ability will be automatically activated when the life form eats. Increased digestion efficiency by 20%. When eating phase of the same level, the life form will obtain greater benefits than other phase. Abilities: frowny face. Advanced swimming: this creature has an advanced swimming ability. Its movement speed in the water will be greatly increased. If this ability is activated, it will consume a lot of stamina, but its movement speed will be increased by 3 times underwater. Dragonman scale armor: this is an ability that this creature inherited from their father god. The gray scale armor on their body has a certain level of defense. Although it does not provide any attribute bonuses, when the scales are intact, this creature will have 20% damage immunity. Short flight: the creature has a pair of huge bat wings on its back, but they cannot support the creature's flight for a long time. If there are no external influences, the creature can fly for a quarter of an hour. Intermediate regeneration: this creature has a very strong recovery ability. Even if the wound on its abdomen is cut open, as long as the wound does not worsen, it will be able to fully recover in less than half an hour. However, this recovery ability is not invincible. Severed limb injuries cannot be healed through this ability. The above were the attributes of the spawn tribe that Lin Yuan had strengthened. It had to be said that this interface was still trash, but compared to when Lin Yuan had just arrived in this world, these spawn tribe were considered extremely powerful. At the very least, they could fight against demon beasts below the wisdom enlightenment realm. Their speed was also rather good. If both sides were to fight underwater, even if the spawn tribe did not use their advanced swimming ability, their speed would be at the peak of the spirit awakening realm. Phew, Lin Yuan let out a long breath and glanced at his Joss flame model. He said in a deep voice, "Let's set it like this for the time being. Summon 4 spawn tribe for me, 3 males and 1 female." As soon as he said that, Lin Yuan saw his Joss flame power constantly jumping and finally stopping at a pitiful 2. 4 grayscaled flood dragon people also appeared in Lin Yuan's sight. "We pay our respects to the great Blackwater Dragon King, the one and only divine king of the Northern Frontier divine system, the father of the grayscaled flood dragon people." As soon as the 4 spawn tribe walked out of the white light condensed by the system, they all knelt on the ground toward Lin Yuan. As the spawn tribe that Lin Yuan had personally created, their loyalty to Lin Yuan was unshakable. Just like the first batch of humans that Nuwa had created back then, they all worshipped Nuwa as the mother of humanity. In other words, these spawn tribe that Lin Yuan had personally created were naturally fanatical believers of Lin Yuan. Each of them could provide 5 Joss flame power to Lin Yuan every day. However, this loyalty was limited to the spawn tribe that Lin Yuan had personally created. Whether the descendants of the spawn tribe would still believe in Lin Yuan, the Blackwater Dragon King, would depend on Lin Yuan's own methods. Nuwa could still be used as an example. According to myths and legends, Nuwa, who had created humans, should have been the most powerful existence among the gods, especially after humans had unified the heavens and 10,000 worlds. However, in reality, Nuwa had always been below Hongjun. She was not even the most powerful existence among the few saints. This was because when humans talked about Nuwa, most of them still treated her as a made-up existence. Among the descendants of the first batch of spawn tribe, there were not many who believed in Nuwa. Compared to Nuwa, the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, who had made great contributions to the human race, they were more like some kind of idealized existence in the eyes of humans. However, if you were to ask a human who they would believe in if there were really gods in the world, most humans would probably tell you without hesitation that they would choose the god of fortune. There might also be many other random gods. However, what was certain was that they would rather choose a god that could bring them practical benefits than believe in a mother of humanity that could not bring them any benefits. It was just that realistic. Lin Yuan did not wish to follow in Nuwa's footsteps, so he would not raise his own spawn tribe. In fact, when creating the spawn tribe, Lin Yuan had already drawn up a series of plans to maximize the benefits that the spawn tribe could bring. Chapter 696. In addition, relying on the clan tribe to harvest incense power seemed very profitable, but it was not the case. First of all, summoning a clan tribe required a large amount of incense power. Although there was a certain return, there was a limit to the clan tribe's lifespan. For example, the current grayscaled flood dragon person would die of old age at the age of 20 if there was no external influence. In other words, a clan tribe that died of old age could provide 36,500 incense power just by calculating the supply of faith. However, that was not how the accounts were calculated. The clan tribes that Lin Yuan created could not possibly be in their infancy. Every one of them was truly in their prime. In other words, when these clan tribes were summoned, their actual age was already over 5 years old, and the older ones might be 8 years old. Furthermore, the clan tribes themselves were not existences from some advanced civilization. Once a clan tribe exceeded the age of 15, their bodily functions would be greatly reduced, and they would not even be able to rely on themselves to catch prey to fill their stomachs. If the clan tribe was rich, they would still be able to eat, but if the clan tribe was not rich, they might even become food for other clan tribes. Even if Lin Yuan was willing to raise old clan tribes, they would most likely not be able to live to the point of dying of old age. They might not even live to the point where they could not hunt anymore. This was because the meaning of their existence was to charge and break through enemy lines for Lin Yuan. In addition, although the clan tribes could cultivate, their main way to improve was to constantly fight, just like characters in games. They accumulated experience through fighting, and then Lin Yuan would use incense power to upgrade them so that the clan tribe's abilities would be improved in all aspects. At present, this was the only way for the clan tribes to improve. Even for a race like the human race that was famous for its high intelligence and comprehension ability, if they wanted to cultivate a powerful cultivator, they would need to invest a large amount of resources and decades, or even centuries of time. The Northern Frontier Academy was still crying piteously for food. Lin Yuan was already under pressure to maintain the Northern Frontier's daily consumption. If the clan tribes also came to consume the phase stored in the Northern Frontier, it might not be long before even the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce's transactions could not be maintained. In addition, even if there were no problems in terms of resources, Lin Yuan could not invest too much in the clan tribes. After all, the system had already determined that they had low intelligence when they had as low as 3 points of spirit. The so-called potential to become a spellcaster was just to tell Lin Yuan that the grayscaled flood dragon person could barely cultivate. However, their aptitude was there. Even if Lin Yuan spent a lot of money, he would not be able to create a super powerhouse. Before the grayscaled flood dragon person's potential reached a certain level, they were destined to be consumables on the battlefield. They could be said to be large consumers of Joss flames in all aspects. However, even if they were lucky, some of the clan tribes had experienced hundreds of battles and were piled up into powerhouses by Lin Yuan's Joss flames, but it was still useless. Even a demon king's clan tribe could only provide 5 points of Joss flames a day. Furthermore, demon kings would also die of old age. The more he invested, the more he would lose when the clan tribe died of old age. Ever since he activated the clan tribe model, Lin Yuan felt that this thing might not be as useful as the soldier creation function. No matter how much he invested in the beginning, there was a high probability that he would not be able to recoup the cost in the end. He might even suffer a huge loss. Forget it. There are pros and cons. At least you can reproduce and grow on your own. The things that come out of the soldier creation function can only rely on me to instill attribute points. Moreover, compared to you, they can only do not harm me. They might not be 100% loyal to me in their hearts. Lin Yuan sighed. With the word fanatic here, Lin Yuan did not have to worry about the loyalty of his clan tribes at all. After all, the history of the West in his previous life had proven countless times that fanatics were a very scary thing. They could even abandon everything for the god they believed in. Wealth, fame, family, to them, all of these were not as important as the words of the gods. Even if they could not obtain any benefits, as long as they could please the god they believed in, these fanatics would be able to put on their armor and go to the other side of the world to conquer their god's enemies. Great Father, please give us your oracle. We will do our best to share your burden. The 4 grayscaled flood dragon people bowed once again and said to Lin Yuan in a deep voice. Right now, you are still too weak. Go around this sea region and take a look. If there are suitable prey, kill it without hesitation. When the time is right, I will bestow you with greater power. Lin Yuan glanced at the 4 grayscaled flood dragon people and immediately made a judgment in his heart. Although the attribute models of the two sides were not quite the same, with Lin Yuan's strength, he could determine that the 4 weaklings in front of him were actually around the 6th level of the spirit awakening realm just by sensing their qi. This kind of strength was at the bottom of the food chain in the endless sea. Fortunately, their strength was low and there were no requirements for the strength of their enemies. Even if they killed sea beasts that had not been awakened, they could still gain experience. We obey Father's orders. The four gray-scaled flood dragon people bowed once again and slowly left the hotel Lin Yuan was in. The attitude of the Sea Demon Guild was very ambiguous. They did not want to miss out on a powerful force like Lin Yuan, but they were also not willing to be the scapegoat for Lin Yuan. Thus, after giving Lin Yuan the pancakes, they directly left Lin Yuan in the hotel. There was not a single spy nearby, so Lin Yuan did not have to worry about the trouble of his four spawn tribes being targeted. It was clear that the Sea Demon Guild was worried that Lin Yuan's enemies would come knocking soon, so they decided to stay out of it for the time being. If the other party was really powerful and the Sea Demon Guild knew that this was the Sea Demon Hotel and still attacked Lin Yuan, then the Sea Demon Guild would have to reconsider whether it was worth offending an even more powerful opponent for Lin Yuan. Seeing his Joss flame power return to zero, Lin Yuan helplessly stretched his body. His different colored eyes were filled with a hint of mockery. He wondered if there were any existences in the endless sea that were willing to trade with him. Right now, he needed a large amount of Joss flame power. The act of creating spawn tribes made things worse for Lin Yuan, who was not rich to begin with. The number of 4 spawn tribes was still too small. It was impossible for them to grow in a short period of time. After all, weak existences could only kill weaker existences in a one-on-one battle. When facing strong existences, they needed more people to surround and kill them. Otherwise, they could only stand aside obediently and watch their prey swagger away. Even if he did not need to increase the number of spawn tribes in a short period of time, with the current income of Joss flame power, he might not even have enough Joss flame power for the gray-scaled flood dragon people to evolve. Ever since he devoured the fate of the Shenwu dynasty, Lin Yuan once again felt what poverty was. Chapter 697. At the same time. Northern Frontier, Northern Battlefront Army Camp. Li Zhong was sitting in the commander's tent. On his left were Luo Su, Yi Balan, Zhang Shuzhu, and other powerful people in the Northern Frontier intelligence system. On the other side were some officials from the Northern Frontier families and the people in charge of the Northern Territory Chamber of Commerce. They had all received Li Zhong's order and put down their work to come to the Northern Battlefront Army Camp. On his right side were Qin Yu, Zhao Guangchong, Gao Buzhan, Men Du, and other military leaders in the Northern Frontier. On the other side were the newly promoted generals of the Northern Battlefront Army. Except for Li Zhongxing, who was still directing the construction of the Great Wall project and fighting against the Frost Mirror Barbarian, almost all the generals in the Northern Frontier were here. Today, I've called all of you here for 2 reasons. Li Zhong slowly raised a finger and said, "First, Lord Dragon King is in danger in the Endless Sea. According to the information from the Ministry of Works, Lord Dragon King might not be able to get out in a short time. So, during this time, I will be in charge of everything in the Northern Frontier. Let me tell you the ugly truth first. I advise you to be honest and don't have any bad ideas." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's expression changed slightly. It was hard to say what was going on with Lin Yuan, but now that Li Zhong said that, it meant that he might have done all the preparations. Once there was someone who didn't listen to him and wanted to make trouble, Li Zhong might come to their door before they could fight. Although the expressions of the people around him changed several times, no one stood up to refute. The corners of Li Zhong's mouth curled up slightly, and a fleeting smile flashed across his face. Then, he continued, "The second thing is that some time ago, we caught a group of special undead during an operation to eliminate the Resurrection Society." Special immortals. Luo Su tilted his head, and a hint of doubt flashed across his eyes. Some time ago, the Sky Demon had used the elixir of immortality to create chaos in the Northern Frontier. Even his biggest competitor, Shi Dong, had died because of the elixir of immortality. However, since then, the Sky Demon's forces in the Northern Frontier had been damaged one after another. He could only curl up in the Hengduan Mountains and struggle at death's door. He could no longer pose a threat to the Northern Frontier. During this period of time, apart from preparing for war, the northern frontier was mainly fighting against the Northern Restoration Society, apart from the occasional small skirmishes with the Sky Demon Army and the Frost Mirror Barbarian. Luo Su subconsciously frowned when he heard the term undying out of the blue. Don't be nervous, Commander Luo. The immortals mentioned here are not the immortals created by the Sky Demon, but some monsters that have the appearance of humans but can't be killed. Li Zhong cleared his throat and said with a solemn expression, according to the information in my hands, when these immortals were captured, they had been killed more than 10 times in the operation to wipe out the Northern Restoration Society. However, after each death, they can quickly revive. Even if they are cut into pieces, they will not die. Instead, from one of the pieces of flesh, they will once again grow into a complete body. As his voice fell, the expressions of all the generals in the northern frontier changed. As existences who galloped on the battlefield, they were never afraid of strong enemies. However, in the face of disgusting things, even they had to retreat. For example, these unkillable things were one of them. No matter how strong these immortals were, as long as there was no way to kill them, they could only go around them. Not every soldier had a big heart that had been tempered thousands of times. There was a limit to what they could accept. Once they encountered this kind of monster that couldn't be killed even if they were cut into pieces, their morale would quickly collapse. At that time, it was completely unpredictable what would happen. In order to deal with the immortals, I have tried many ways. In addition to physical means such as chopping, hacking, and piercing the heart with thousands of arrows, I have also invited some Heaven Dipper realm cultivators to use various techniques to attack them. However, the result, even if these immortals are burned to ashes, they can recover again. It's just that the recovery time of the immortals is different depending on the injury. If they are burned to ashes, it will take at least 3 days to recover. In addition to this kind of creepy immortal power, these immortals look almost no different from us humans. If it weren't for the operation to wipe out the Northern Restoration Society, we might not have been able to discover the existence of these immortals. This is because the other party's appearance, intelligence, and other aspects are no different from ordinary humans. For the time being, we are not sure if the existence of the immortals has anything to do with the Sky Demon. However, the waters of the Northern Restoration Society are definitely much deeper than we previously thought. However, there is good news. So far, we have intercepted and killed nearly 20,000 members of the Northern Restoration Society. Most of the members of the Northern Restoration Society are ordinary people. So far, we have only discovered about 20 immortals. Li Zhong crossed his arms in front of his chest and said with a cold expression, "The reason why I called you all here is simply that I can't think of a way to deal with the immortals. However, if you all brainstorm together, perhaps there will be some gains." The expressions of everyone in the commander's tent changed several times. They all looked at each other, but no one spoke. The oppressive atmosphere was maintained for a full incensus time. Zhang Shizhu stretched out his hand and gently knocked on the table. After attracting everyone's attention, he said in an almost joking tone, "You should know that the work of attacking the Northern Restoration Society went smoothly because many of my agents infiltrated the Northern Restoration Society and provided a lot of information for the cleanup work. However, according to the information of my agents, this time, we almost caught the Northern Restoration Society's president." As soon as his voice fell, the expressions of everyone, including Li Zhong, changed. Almost caught the Northern Restoration Society's president? This was not good news. Therefore, we suspect that the Northern Restoration Society's president has a way to turn ordinary people into immortals. Moreover, this guy is very cunning. The place where he is very likely to have a large number of secret mechanisms. According to our method of pulling out nails, we may never catch the Northern Restoration Society's president. If we can't catch the Northern Restoration Society's president, then the other party may create more immortals. When the number of immortals reaches a certain level, our offensive and defensive roles may be switched. Zhang Shizhu's expression was tense. he said in a deep voice, so now we only have two paths. Either we expose a flaw to lure the Northern Restoration Society's president into the battlefield we have prepared to capture him, or we study the weaknesses of these immortals as soon as possible to prepare for the decisive battle soon. Chapter 698. The opponent is an unkillable monster. What weakness can it have? Zhao Guangcheng frowned slightly and subconsciously opened his mouth to reply. As the leader of the Blackwater Army, Zhao Guangcheng was best at breaking through enemy lines. Previously, when he fought against Shueliao Knight, he dared to take the lead and charge into the enemy's formation. Therefore, as long as an opponent appeared in front of him, he would not panic. However, if his opponent was a monster that he could not kill no matter how hard he tried, that would be his blind spot. If you can't kill it, can you trap it? Qin Yu, who was also from the Blackwater Army, also frowned and gave a suggestion. I'm afraid it's very difficult. Li Zhong shook his head with a wry smile and said in a low voice, I said before that if it wasn't a coincidence and we didn't intend to leave them alive, we wouldn't even be able to tell the difference between these monsters and ordinary people. This also means that the opponent also has the ability to cultivate, and is even not inferior to human intelligence. But compared to us, they have a special trait called immortality. Therefore, it is very difficult to capture beasts and the like. I mean, if we use something like a ballista, can we directly nail them to the ground? Qin Yu asked again. Clap. Clap. Li Zhong clapped his hands lightly twice. Soon, the soldiers outside the tent came in with a young man in tattered clothes. But from the outside, it was almost impossible to distinguish the original color and style of the clothes. Cuts, tears, and bloodstains could be seen everywhere. If one only looked at the clothes, it would be impossible to imagine that the owner of the clothes was still alive in this world. Even if it were a demon beast with a tyrannical body to bear such injuries, it would probably die on the spot. But the young man wearing the clothes, other than his face being covered in dust and looking somewhat disheveled, there was not a single wound on his body. Only the 3 layers of spirit-binding shackles on his body told everyone in the tent that although this young man looked relatively quiet, he was in fact a ruthless character. Li Zhong nodded to the soldiers escorting the young man and slowly got up from the main seat. Clang! The long sword at his waist was unsheathed. The speed of the sword was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, the white light had already pierced through the young man's waist. Soon after, Li Zhong slowly released his right hand, allowing the long sword to remain in the young man's body. What happened next almost made everyone's eyes widen. The wound on the young man's body kept wriggling. Pieces of flesh and blood transformed into tentacles, twisting and intertwining with each other. Meanwhile, the long sword was pushed out bit by the regenerating force, and finally fell to the ground with a loud clang. The wound on the young man's abdomen had completely healed. Not even a scar could be seen. Only the blood flowing out proved that Li Zhong's sword had indeed pierced into his abdomen. I've already tried. Li Zhong sighed softly and said helplessly, when these guys heal their wounds, their flesh and blood will burst with a terrifying repulsive force. I've had Senior Zhou Jianxian try it and let him keep holding the sword to suppress it, but the sword was still pushed out by this force. This also means that, even if someone below the celestial strength realm is suppressed by human strength, there is no way anyone below the celestial strength realm would be able to resist this strange force. Do you think those large ballistae would be able to do it if even Senior Zhou, who is at the peak of the airborne realm, couldn't do it? As soon as he finished speaking, the commander's tent fell into a dead silence again. Despite being at the pinnacle of the airborne realm being far inferior to those at the celestial strength realm, they were still able to easily take on the incoming ballista bolts. They were even able to crush the bolts that were moving at high speeds with their bare hands. If such a force could not suppress the young man, how could the ballistae do it? Moreover, this young man had 3 layers of spirit-binding shackles on his body, but it was only his cultivation that was suppressed. That strange undying power was not affected at all. Therefore, the special metal that was used to suppress cultivators was not effective at all. The young man slowly raised his head and sneered at Li Zhong, who was standing in front of him, and said in a cold voice, "Mortal, I am an existence blessed by the Supreme God. Unless my God wants to take my life, you mortals will never be able to kill me. So, there is nothing we can do about these immortals?" Luo Su asked with a gloomy face. Li Zhong was silent for a moment and said with a bitter smile, "If Lord Dragon King is here, it may be easy to get rid of these so-called immortals. But maybe it is as he said, we are just mortals, and it is pardonable that we can't kill these monsters." At this point, Li Zhong paused, took a deep breath, and continued, "So, what I mean is that the northern frontier fully shrink the defense line and temporarily cede some territory to the Northern Restoration Society. Everything will wait for Lord Dragon King to come back and make the decision. Before that, the most important thing is to guard against the Sky Demon army that may fight with us at any time." Tisk, Zhao Guangchong frowned without hiding it and said in a muffled voice, "That is impossible. The Northern Restoration Society has been continuously suppressed by us during this period of time, and they are already very weak. At this time, we don't chase after them and even give them time to breathe. This kind of thinking is tantamount to suicide. Then what if we encounter these unkillable monsters again?" Li Zhong narrowed his eyes slightly and turned his head to glare at Zhao Guangchong, his face slightly gloomy. Zhao Guangchong stood up, and his aura was not inferior to Li Zhong's. He growled, "Although these guys can't be killed, their strength is just as so-so. If we encounter them again, we will find an opportunity to capture them." Qin Yu stretched out his hand and pulled Zhao Guangchong's sleeve, coughing softly twice. This colleague of his was good at everything, but his brain was a little one-track minded. Rather than saying that he was simple and straightforward, it was better to say that this guy believed in using force to solve problems, and rarely used his brain. But at this time, in front of so many Northern Frontier bosses, he slammed the table and challenged the king of the Northern Frontier. Did he think that he would not die? Ha! After Li Zhong and Zhao Guangchong looked at each other for a moment, they suddenly chuckled. Qin Yu subconsciously felt a chill on his back. He didn't know why, but he always felt that Li Zhong's act today was purely for show. Perhaps this guy had already dug a big hole and was just waiting for them to jump into it. Still too young, Qin Yu glanced at the people around her who were looking down at their noses and sighed in her heart. Obviously, Li Zhong was going to leave the mess to his subordinates to deal with. Everyone knew this, so they kept silent. However, when it came to Zhao Guangchong, the silly guy, he dared to slap the table and challenge Li Zhong. Perhaps the undead would fall on the Blackwater army soon. Chapter 699. Since Zhao Yingjing is so confident, then I'll have to trouble Zhao Yingjing to capture these immortals. Li Zhong reached out and patted the non-existent dust on his hands, a faint smile on his face, and said, "From now on, Zhao Yingjing will be separated from the Blackwater army's fighting sequence. All frontline affairs will have nothing to do with Zhao Yingjing. You will lead your troops and be responsible for capturing the discovered immortals, as well as the leader of the Northern Restoration Society who is absconding. If there are any problems during this period, I will hold you responsible." This, Zhao Guangchong's breathing slightly stagnated. Although he didn't like to use his brain very much, this didn't mean that he was really stupid. So after Li Zhong spoke, he already realized that Li Zhong was completely planning to throw the trouble out, and he just happened to step on a mine. What? Didn't Zhao Yingjing say it was very easy before? Can't you just capture the immortals if you encounter them? Li Zhong curled the corner of his mouth and directly opened his mouth to block Zhao Guangchong's mouth, and said in a strange tone, "Of course, if Zhao Yingjing is not willing to take responsibility for this matter, I will not force you. But from today onwards, all actions against the Northern Restoration Society will be temporarily suspended in the Northern Frontier. We will wait for Dragon King to return before we make further plans." I'll take this job. Zhao Guangcheng's blood was boiling at this moment, and he couldn't care less about the trouble at all, and directly growled. Some time ago, he was ordered by Lin Yuan to transfer a group of Blackwater army to listen to Lei Chuxing's command. Now that Lei Chuxing was in closed-door training, the command of this team completely fell into his hands, and naturally participated in a series of attack plans against the Northern Restoration Society. Most of the time, the well-equipped Blackwater army was the main force to destroy cities and strongholds. Now that most of the Northern Restoration Society's strongholds had been uprooted, the remaining ones had hidden in the forests near the Hengduan Mountains. If they did not take advantage of the situation now, who knew what other trump cards the Northern Restoration Society would bring out? If the Sky Demon Army attacked the northern frontier, it would be difficult to guarantee that the northern frontier would not be destroyed. If Zhao Guangcheng could figure this out, the others could naturally figure it out as well. The reason why no one brought it up and even allowed Li Zhong to bring up this suicidal suggestion was to find someone who was not afraid of trouble to take the blame. If no one said anything, then the person in charge would be decided by drawing lots. That's all. Meeting adjourned. Having found a suitable person to be in charge, Li Zhong was clearly much more relaxed. He waved his hand lightly and walked out of the commander's tent, as if the person with the bitter smile from before was not him. Yi Bailin was the second to get up. When he passed by Zhao Guangcheng, he looked like he wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he did not say a single word. He just sighed softly, reached out and patted Zhao Guangcheng's shoulder, and was the second to leave the commander's tent. After that, it was Luo Su, Zhang Shizhu, and a group of generals. Finally, it was the people in charge of the other offices in the northern frontier. These people seemed to have discussed it in advance. They all walked in front of Zhao Guangcheng, sighed softly, and then reached out and patted Zhao Guangcheng's shoulder as if to encourage him. However, Zhao Guangcheng saw that many people were trying hard to hold back their laughter, and even their faces were slightly red. This was especially true for Gao Buzhen. This person almost had the word happy written on his face. But thinking about it, these immortals themselves were not weak cultivators. Coupled with the power of immortality, they cooperated with a certain battle formation. Ordinary troops really had no way to deal with them. Except for the Devil Beast army that could not be seen, only the Blackwater army and the Fallen Star army could be a match for them. The current Blackwater army had no mission for the time being. They were all split up to assist in various departments. Zhao Guangcheng and Qin Yu, who had nothing to do, were also nominally under Lei Chuxing's command. In today's meeting, Lei Chuxing did not participate at all. Even Li Zhong could not directly dispatch his subordinates without Lei Chuxing's permission. Therefore, if Zhao Guangcheng and Qin Yu were thick-skinned and did not accept the task, this task would definitely be carried out by the Fallen Star army. Drawing lots was said to be fair and just, but everyone was a cultivator. Who did not know how to play tricks? Playing tricks. Out of everyone present, who would be able to outplay Li Zhong, this old fox? The last to get up was Qin Yu. He also sighed, but before he could reach out his hand, Zhao Guangcheng's threatening voice had already sounded, "Old Qin, if you take this down, don't blame me for turning my back on you. I'll make you participate in the operation to exterminate the Resurrection Society with a pig head tomorrow. You know, I'm afraid I'll be very idle in the short term." The immortals were not cabbages on the roadside. Except for the ones caught this time, there might not be more than 100 immortals in the entire Resurrection Society. Obviously, it was not impossible to transform ordinary humans into immortals, but it was either expensive or the conditions were very harsh. Therefore, the proportion of immortals in the Resurrection Society might not be large. He was a general who had been kicked out of the fighting order. He might really be idle for a long time. A tense and exciting fight with Qin Yu would not affect him much at all. But during this period of time, the task was still heavy and the time was tight. Except for some special existences, Everyone in the northern frontier who could move had to participate in the operation to exterminate the Resurrection Society. Therefore, Qin Yu would definitely have to go out tomorrow. If he appeared in front of his subordinates with a pig head, Qin Yu would not be able to stand up in the Blackwater Army. Qin Yu's expression changed. He put down his right hand that was ready to move and said with a smile, "Old Zhao, am I that kind of person? Would I laugh at you like they did because you didn't think it through and made a mistake? Don't you think your words are too hurtful to me?" Zhao Guangcheng curled his lips suspiciously and said in a deep voice, "You didn't speak before, and you secretly pulled the corner of my clothes. Did you already guess that the king of the northern frontier was going to do this? Good boy, you don't talk about martial ethics. You seem to be a tiger." Qin Yu scolded in a low voice. He gritted his teeth and said, "The immortals are a big trouble. You can suppress them for a while with these guys under you, but how can you prove that the plan to capture the immortals is not the plan of the Resurrection Society's president who is still elusive? If you want to supervise them closely, you are not just a little bit better. When you can't hold on anymore, won't I have to leave to help you?" Speaking of this, Qin Yu narrowed his eyes and said hatefully, "The king of the northern frontier originally wanted the Fallen Star Army to do this. I thought the Blackwater Army had escaped this time, but I didn't expect you to suddenly hit the table. You really made us suffer." This, Zhao Guangcheng once again entered the state of Abba. Chapter 700. The Endless Sea, the Deep Sea Region, the Willow Stone Sea. Why do I feel uneasy? Lin Yuan was sitting cross-legged, refining his demonic power. His eyes were filled with confusion. So far, no trouble had come to the West Sea Dragon Palace. It seemed that in order to cover up the news of the aberrant and also to hide the fact that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was ready to retreat, the Dragon Palace of the West Sea did not mention anything about the evil dragon pool. Even as far as Lin Yuan knew, the West Sea Dragon Palace had specially transferred 3 of the 9 sons of the Dragon Clan to directly destroy the Red Crab Clan, which was involved in this matter, to ensure that the matter of Dragon Lake would rot in their stomachs. After all the survivors of the entire evil dragon pool had become aberrants. Only Lin Yuan was missing. Even the aberrant who created this tragedy had not been found out. However, as a level 8 demonic beast of the Mountain Lord realm and the bloodline of the Water Dragon, Lin Yuan was sure that he was not being paranoid. Even without the help of the system, Lin Yuan was the divine king of the Northern Frontier Divine System, the pioneer of the underworld in the Tianwu continent, and the incarnation of the Nether River. Therefore, if he felt uneasy, there must be something wrong. Could it be the Northern Frontier? Lin Yuan narrowed his eyes and murmured. If there was nothing wrong with him, it could only be the Northern Frontier. However, he could not figure out what kind of trouble the Northern Frontier could have. Before he left, not only did he leave behind a large amount of Netherworld Realm black water for Li Zhong, he even summoned existences in the Wisdom Realm or the Mountain Lord Realm. Their combat power was not considered strong, but when combined with the Netherworld River's unkillable characteristics, they were definitely a force that could stand shoulder to shoulder with any army in the world. After all, the Tianwu continent was very different from the Endless Sea. In the Tianwu continent, whether it was a demonic beast of the demonic king realm or a Dao initiation realm cultivator, once they broke through, they had to report to the Heavenly Gate. Otherwise, they would be the enemy of the entire cultivation world. Therefore, the combat power Lin Yuan left behind was sufficient. He even created the god of war, Batu, to be the true dragon son of heaven. With such strength, even if the Shenwu dynasty at its peak came, Lin Yuan might have the audacity to challenge it directly. "Father, we have completed the first refinement. We are here to report to you." Soon, the 4 demonic beast clans appeared in Lin Yuan's consciousness. Although they did not meet, Lin Yuan could check the status of these demonic beasts through the system panel. The one who spoke was Flood Dragon 1, the leader of the 4 demonic beast clans. Although the 4 demonic beast clans were essentially the same, as the first demonic beast clans to speak to Lin Yuan, Flood Dragon 1 received special treatment. For example, he was chosen by Lin Yuan to be a holy disciple. This meant that once Lin Yuan needed him, he could give up everything and allow Lin Yuan's divine sense to descend on his body and control his every move. The other 3 demonic beast clans were Flood Dragon 2, Flood Dragon 3, and Flood Dragon younger sister. It was not that Lin Yuan felt that naming was troublesome, but although these demonic beast clans were personally summoned by him, they were still weak chickens. Everyone knew that weak chickens did not deserve to have names. Most of the time, they were just called by their code names. Not bad. Heroes should enjoy praise and honor. As my brave warrior, you will receive everything you deserve for your efforts. Now, enjoy the fruits of victory. Lin Yuan nodded at Flood Dragon 1. The large number of items piled up beside him were emitting a golden radiance. As the items disappeared one by one, Lin Yuan's incense power on his system panel increased. When it was almost enough, Lin Yuan willed it and golden incense power gushed out and poured directly into the 4 demonic beast clans in front of him. Demonic beast clans information, name, Flood Dragon 1 race, grayscaled Flood Dragon person, low-level species, type, subhuman level, upper tier 1 class, spear warrior talents, underwater breathing, learning, optical camouflage skills, seawater essence, tide call, agony, devour, lunge, explosive seed, spear warrior form specialties, advanced swimming, flood dragon person scaly armor, short flight, intermediate regeneration physique, 9-5, resistance comparable to turtles, strength, 11, strength not. Inferior to elephants, agility, 6, 4/10/5, land, water, sky, spirit, 4, low-level intelligence, has the potential to become a spellcaster. 2000 incense power had brought about an improvement on Flood Dragon 1 system panel. In terms of numbers, Flood Dragon 1's attributes didn't seem to have changed much. However, Lin Yuan was still shocked when he looked at Flood Dragon 1 in front of him. Although he didn't know how the attribute panel of the clan tribe was converted, Lin Yuan could be sure at the moment that Zhao Yi's strength at the moment was probably not inferior to the second level of the wisdom state, or even stronger and more resistant to attacks. It hadn't been that long. According to the game system, Flood Dragon 1 had risen from level 1 to level 2 at most. However, the improvement in strength made even Lin Yuan feel inferior. Of course, if Lin Yuan were to evaluate it, this deal was still a huge loss. Summoning a demonic beast clans cost 2,541 incense power and upgrading from level 1 to level 2 required 2,000 incense power. The strength that was exchanged for these numbers could be said to be shockingly low. If it was a creature that Lin Yuan created through the soldier creation system, spending this amount of incense power would have raised its attributes to a terrifying level. The 4 demonic beasts leveled up one by one. They were all spear warriors and their attributes were similar to Flood Dragon 1's. It was clear that because they were all using spears, the experience gained from different weapons would naturally be different. This was a direction that was worth paying attention to. In the future, when cultivating demonic beasts, he could also test the cooperation between different types of soldiers. Father, may I ask what our next step is? Flood Dragon 1 looked at Lin Yuan with a fervent gaze. Temporarily stand by and wait for my next instruction. Lin Yuan glanced at Flood Dragon 1 and calmly replied. Although he didn't know what Flood Dragon 1 had done during this period of time, the 4 demonic beasts had accumulated enough experience to level up. Even if their levels were low and they didn't need much experience, they probably killed a lot. Although the Endless Sea was stronger than the Hingduan mountain range, the ecological balance was still a serious problem. Wantonly killing those ordinary sea monsters would also cause the lobster to be hostile. Lin Yuan didn't want to fight a demonic king realm monster, at least not now. Therefore, he could only pacify the demonic beasts and have them temporarily stand by. Yes. Great Father. Flood Dragon 1 replied loudly again with a fervent expression on his face. He took the initiative to cut off the connection with Lin Yuan. Chapter 701. After ordering the clan tribe to be on standby for the time being, Lin Yuan frowned again. As a passive skill, Lin Yuan had always kept the eye of the god active. He also added a lot of demonic energy to ensure that the entire Willow Rock Sea area was within the range of the eye of the god. If there was any disturbance around, Lin Yuan would know immediately. Just when he contacted Jiao Yi, the eye of the god noticed that there was a group of demonic beasts with a bloodline higher than his in the Willow Rock Sea area. Bloodline higher than his. What did that mean? Although Lin Yuan was not a real dragon, he was a pure flood dragon species. It was nothing in the Eldritch world. However, in the Tianwu continent, Lin Yuan's bloodline was definitely a superior species of the dragon clan. For example, Ao Qian, who came from an extraordinary background, was suspected to be the descendant of the Dragon King of the West Sea Dragon Palace. There was a real dragon bloodline in her bloodline, but the concentration was not high. In terms of bloodline, Lin Yuan's bloodline was higher than Ao Qian's. The ruler of the Willow Rock Sea area, which was the lobster, could not oppress Lin Yuan's bloodline. This meant that the lobster's bloodline was not as high as Lin Yuan's. A creature of this level could already establish its own tribe near the evil dragon pool. If it was in the era when the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas stood proudly in the Endless Sea, this lobster would definitely be one of the top nobles in the Endless Sea. Therefore, Lin Yuan was confident that his bloodline's level was not low. There were only two possibilities for a creature with a stronger bloodline to appear in the Willow Rock Sea area. Either these demonic beasts came from the higher-ups of the Sea Demon Guild, or they came from the Dragon Palace of the West Sea, or even the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Moreover, they appeared in the Willow Rock Sea area for him. Even if it was the former, Lin Yuan was sure that a demonic beast with such a strong bloodline was most likely a member of the Dragon Palace. This is troublesome. Lin Yuan closed his eyelids slightly and murmured in a low voice. He began to think about the possibility of running away. He really did not expect the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas to have such a sharp nose. If something were to happen and his real body was stuck in the Willowstone Sea area, it would be a huge joke. The Great Yao of the Dragon Palace could not casually enter the Willowstone region. Even if the West Sea Dragon Palace wanted to, they could send their troops to flatten the Willowstone region at any time. However, the West Sea Dragon Palace dared not do so. When the Willow Rock Sea area fought against the West Sea Dragon Palace, their biggest advantage was that they were one of the subordinate species of the Dragon Palace. Now, more and more subordinate species were dissatisfied with the Dragon Palace. Even the news that the Endless Sea was going to change its master had spread like wildfire. If the Dragon Palace still maintained its previous attitude to deal with the demonic beasts in the Endless Sea, the only result would be that the fierce tiger would be devoured by the pack of wolves. Blood Lady and the Red Crab clan behind her were quickly wiped out. The main reason was that Blood Lady had attacked the evil dragon pool. Although the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas did not have the guts to attack the tribes of the Dragon Palace, it did not mean that anyone could challenge the authority of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. However, the Willow Rock Sea area was different. Although they had always been hostile to the West Sea Dragon Palace, they did not cross the bottom line of the Dragon Palace. Therefore, there was no problem for the two sides to attack each other. However, the West Sea Dragon Palace could not directly send troops to wipe out the Willow Rock Sea area. However, when it came to Lin Yuan and the undersea prison, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was not in a good mood. Lin Yuan did not even need to think to know that once his identity was exposed, the West Sea Dragon Palace would launch a series of storm-like pursuits to capture him. It would be extremely unfavorable for his next arrangement. Escape. Or, disguise as an ordinary demonic beast. These two ideas kept colliding in Lin Yuan's mind. If the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas still dared to fight against the Great Old Ones, Lin Yuan did not mind cooperating with them at all. Just like when he had just arrived in this world, the system had issued the task of unifying the Stoneclaw Forest. At that time, Lin Yuan had no choice but to start with the Hell difficulty. This time, although the task of eliminating the Great Old Ones would not give Lin Yuan any territorial rewards, the system's rewards were enough to make all the hosts go crazy. With the help of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, the difficulty of the task would definitely be greatly reduced. Otherwise, if he had to face the Great Old Ones alone who could force the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas to give up the Endless Sea, it would still be a Hell difficulty start for Lin Yuan, who was alone with 1 dragon and 4 clan tribes. Mr. Hidden Dragon, your strength has attracted the attention of the higher-ups of the guild, so they sent experts to investigate you. Currently, the emissary has entered the Willow Rock Sea area. They hope that you can complete your preparations as soon as possible and report to the stronghold of the Sea Demon Guild. The octopus demonic beast that had met Lin Yuan before appeared again and gently knocked on Lin Yuan's door. Got it. Lin Yuan's eyes suddenly turned cold, then he opened his mouth to reply. Previously, the octopus demonic beast had sent an information form for Lin Yuan to fill in. Hidden Dragon was the code name he had given himself, and it was suitable for any situation where he needed to show his membership of the Sea Demon Guild. Moreover, it was not targeted at Lin Yuan alone. Almost all the Sea Demons would not use their real names to register as members of the Sea Demon Guild. Like most guilds, the Sea Demon Guild only provided missions for its members. The purpose of the client was never a problem that the Sea Demon Guild needed to consider. As long as the client could afford the price, the Sea Demon Guild would put the client's request on the mission board. Stealing treasures, plundering, assassinating, there were all kinds of missions that the Sea Demon Guild did not mind. After all, their position was absolutely neutral, and there would not be any innocent sea demons who would treat them as a righteous partner. The sea demons' world was incomparably cruel, and the sea demons who came out to be mercenaries were even more bloodthirsty. Who would care about good or evil? Even if the members of 2 sea demon guilds had different opinions on the same mission, the situation of the 2 sides killing each other had happened more than once. For example, one side wanted to assassinate the target, and the other side was ordered to protect the target. Even if the target was a good friend, at this time, they would not hesitate at all and directly kill each other. Therefore, there were no sea demons who filled in their real information, because that would only bring endless disaster to themselves and the clan behind them. The title of Hidden Dragon Lin Yuan was already the kind that could be found everywhere. Unworthy codenames such as Lord of the Four Seas, King of the Sea Demons, and so on were endless. Anyway, no one really cared about such things. After all, there were more than 1 or 2 Dragon King in those coastal areas, right? Because of a title, they started a massacre. Even if the dragon palaces of the Four Seas joined forces, they could not bear the consequences. Chapter 702. Lin Yuan took a deep breath. Lin Yuan slowly walked out of his room. His gaze paused for a moment on the octopus monster's face in the corridor, and a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes. Although it was the Siren Guild's higher-ups, their purpose was definitely not that simple. After all, he was a flood dragon. Even if he activated the golden body technique and turned his black scales into golden scales, it would still be the same. At least for now, he did not have any ability to disguise his bloodline aura. Therefore, an unknown but tyrannical flood dragon monster with tyrannical strength appeared in front of the Siren Guild's higher-ups. Those from the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would never give up this opportunity to discover Lin Yuan. Therefore, so many monsters with tyrannical bloodlines came to the Willowstone Oceanic region. But what was more troublesome was that the octopus monster had suddenly appeared in the Siren Hotel. Lin Yuan, who had the eye of God, had long discovered the appearance of those Dragon Palace monsters, so he could immediately make the choice of escaping this place or trying his luck to continue disguising himself. However, at this moment, the octopus monster had no intention of hiding from Lin Yuan. Instead, it had directly come to pick him up, which was equivalent to directly blocking his escape route and forcing him to go to the Siren Guild to face those Dragon Palace monsters. Want to leave now? Then he could only quickly kill the octopus monster and then escape to other oceanic regions to conceal his identity. Only through an irregular movement path could he possibly get rid of the pursuers behind him. The time required would definitely not be short. The 3 months of deployment time given by the system might not be enough for him to solve the problems at hand. Mr. Hidden Dragon wants to ask why I suddenly appeared in the Siren Hotel. The octopus monster looked at Lin Yuan with a human-like fake smile on its face. Its tentacle-like right hand snapped its fingers and then pointed to the counter on the first floor of the hotel. It said in a deep voice, "The Siren Hotel has so many arrays. Of course, there is also a simple two-way teleportation array. However, our guild's resources are limited. It is impossible to directly set up a teleportation array that can cross several oceanic regions like those big strongholds. This array can only maintain the short distance between the Siren Guild stronghold and the Siren Hotel." It seemed to have felt the killing intent from Lin Yuan's body. The octopus monster beast's gaze also became somewhat profound. Every Yao beast had their own secrets and did not like the feeling of being spied on. Thus, when they saw existences that suddenly appeared before them, they would show hostility. However, the killing intent emanating from Lin Yuan's body was somewhat excessive. It could even be said to be abnormal. One had to know that hostility and killing intent were two completely different things. I see. Lin Yuan nodded at the octopus monster beast and didn't intend to continue this topic. Just like the octopus demonic beast could sense his killing intent, he could also hear something different from the octopus demonic beast's words. First of all, the Sea Demon Guild stronghold had a teleportation array that led directly to the Sea Demon Hotel. Once the time was up and the octopus monster beast hadn't brought Lin Yuan back to the Sea Demon Guild stronghold, then the Sea Demon Guild stronghold might send a combat team to hunt down Lin Yuan. Coupled with the demon beasts from the Dragon Palace, Lin Yuan wouldn't be able to escape even if he had wings. Even if Lin Yuan could kill his way through the Willowstone Sea and escape, the Sea Demon Guild also had a teleportation array that could cross the sea. Their speed of travel was definitely much faster than Lin Yuan's physical body crossing the sea. Therefore, even if he could escape this time, a large number of teams would appear in the nearby sea to hunt down the flood dragon. Once he showed himself, he would be continuously hunted down. You're very smart. Lin Yuan suddenly said something off-topic. Then, the corners of his mouth slightly parted as he said with a smile, "But I'm not the only one with a secret, right? What do you think?" As soon as his voice fell, the octopus monster beast's expression suddenly changed. It looked at Lin Yuan with obvious surprise in its eyes. Although Lin Yuan's existence was intentionally covered up by the West Sea Dragon Palace, some of the arrangements made by the West Sea Dragon Palace were directional. For example, Lin Yuan's current identity was just a wandering sea demon who might have big trouble behind him. As a result, after it was reported to the Sea Demon Guild, the higher-ups actually sent higher-ups to investigate Lin Yuan. Moreover, almost all of these higher-ups were from the Dragon Palace. This had indirectly confirmed that the trouble Lin Yuan was avoiding was from the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Although they didn't know what secrets Lin Yuan had, it was an indisputable fact that so many demon beasts from the Dragon Palace had come. Although the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was no longer awe-inspiring, they still had their pride. They might have to smile obsequiously to the higher-ups of the Sea Demon Guild, but to existences like the octopus monster beast, they wouldn't explain their motives at all. Through these details, the octopus monster beast could guess that the trouble behind Lin Yuan came from the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. It was indeed worthy of the evaluation of being smart. But knowing this, it still dared to appear in front of Lin Yuan. It was already gambling with its life. Therefore, Lin Yuan's evaluation of the octopus monster beast was only smart. So, now, should I go with you to see those demon beasts from the Dragon Palace, or should you obediently make way and report that I left the Willowstone waters for some matters and that my current whereabouts are unknown? You know, I'm not very stubborn. If something unexpected happens, I might say anything. Lin Yuan slightly tilted his head, the smile on his face becoming more and more ferocious. Although he hadn't been in the Willowstone waters for long, less than a day so far, Lin Yuan still noticed some clues when he observed the movements in the Willowstone waters with the eye of God. For example, the position of the octopus monster beast in the Willowstone division of the Sea Demon Guild was not high. It was just a receptionist to welcome newcomers, but its power in the Willowstone waters was not low. When there was no one around, its nominal superiors were respectful to the octopus monster beast, as if the status of both sides had been completely reversed. In addition, all the matters in the Willowstone waters that the Sea Demon Guild was responsible for seemed to be performing their own duties, but in fact, they were all decided by the octopus monster beast. As long as it said no, it was no. Therefore, this octopus monster beast definitely had a secret, and it was a big secret. After the expression on the octopus monster beast's face was slightly stagnant, it recovered its professional fake smile and said indifferently, "Secrets exist for all creatures, it's just a matter of whether it's big or small. What's more, a secret is no longer a secret. Instead of doing these disgusting things, I prefer not to pursue it. Just like how most of the sea monsters' hands are stained with blood, even if we know, we won't leak it. After all, we are a guild, not the law enforcement department of the Dragon Palace. As long as we cooperate well, who cares about other things? Then, I wish us a happy cooperation in advance." The smile on Lin Yuan's face also seemed to become a professional fake smile. Chapter 703. I believe that we can work together happily, Mr. Black Jiao. The octopus wrapped its two tentacles in front of its chest and said with a smile, "In exchange, I can tell you my name, Horace Robin." Horace Robin. When he first heard this name, Lin Yuan's eyes showed a hint of confusion. But soon after, Lin Yuan's confusion turned into shock, and even some suspicion. A name was a creature's code name. A resounding name was equivalent to a magnificent resume. Just like when Cao Cao was mentioned, others would associate him with the Prime Minister, the Emperor of Great Wei, lover, Kaof. Currently, Lin Yuan had a bit of fame in the Sky Martial continent. For example, the Blackwater Dragon King, the Northern Frontier's God, the Mad Python, and so on. Most of the names that came from outside the Northern Frontier were belittling and ridiculing him. But if Lin Yuan was placed in the Endless Sea, he was just a nameless existence. Other than the Four Seas dragon race that wanted to escape the Endless Sea and ascend to the Sky Martial continent, almost no demonic beasts had heard of his name. At most, they only had a slight impression, and it was not deep. The name Horus was the same in the Sky Martial continent. But if it was placed in the Endless Sea, it would be like thunder to the ears. The most famous demonic beasts in the ocean were array masters, illusionists, weapon refiners, and alchemists. They also dabbled in miscellaneous arts such as mechanisms. If one were to find an existence that could be mentioned in the same breath as Lin Yuan, it would be someone like Gue Guzi, who had learned a lot and was proficient in everything. But compared to Gue Guzi, who was both righteous and evil, Horus was more evil and narrower. Gue Guzi liked to use the world as a chessboard and heroes as chess pieces. He cultivated outstanding disciples to join the vassal states that were fighting fiercely for hegemony. He controlled the fate and survival of the vassal states, and even pushed the direction of history. Horus was the same, but different from Gue Guzi, he liked to control the fate of other living beings. Unlike Gue Guzi, who treated all living beings as chess pieces, he really liked to obtain pleasure from this kind of thing. Therefore, Gue Guzi was a great academic scholar who could stand side by side with Laozi and Confucius. He was the strategist saint who was loved and hated by all the feudal lords of the Spring and Autumn dynasties. On the other hand, Horus was just a villain who was hated by everyone in the endless sea. Wherever Horus appeared, it wouldn't take long for the people to be wiped out by the flames of war. If he was exposed to the dragon palace of the four seas, he would probably have to flee with Lin Yuan. The only difference was that Lin Yuan was being hunted, while he was being hunted. If you really are Horus, I think we'll have a great time working together. When his voice fell, Lin Yuan's eyes curved slightly, like a pair of crescent moons. Please. Horus took a step back, revealing a milky white screen of light behind him. Lin Yuan twisted his body and entered the light curtain. Horus also followed closely behind and entered the light curtain. At the other side, 7 dragon bloodline demon beasts of different forms gathered in the Sea Demon Guild. They sat around a wooden table with all kinds of underwater delicacies on it, but the 7 dragon bloodline demon beasts didn't even look at them. Those sea demon beasts who weren't strong enough only glanced at the 7 demon beasts from afar, then turned their heads and walked out of the Sea Demon Guild. The atmosphere today was obviously much more solemn. After all, they were mercenaries who licked blood from the edge of their blades. Their eyes were the most important. Those vile images that looked down on others only existed in stories, used to raise the image of the protagonist. Which mercenary in reality didn't have sharp eyes? They could tell who they could mess with and who they couldn't mess with at a glance. Naturally, they wouldn't stay here and cause trouble for themselves. The few that stayed were not pure idiots, nor were they here to watch the show. They also predicted that something big would happen next, and wanted to see if they could join in and create some benefits for themselves. These demon beasts were very confident in their own strength. If they succeeded, they would be called bold. If they didn't succeed, they wouldn't hear how the outside world would judge them for being stupid. I say, second brother, isn't it just a Jiao dragon? Is there a need to mobilize so many people? A demon beast that was almost the same as a human, but had blue gills on both cheeks looked at the 6 dragon bloodline demon beasts sitting beside him and asked helplessly. Originally, inspecting Lin Yuan was only its task. It did not know what happened to the dragon palace of the 4 seas. They actually sent a total of 5 members of the 9 sons of Longjiuzi, and even the second-ranked Yi came. Jiao dragon species, heterochromatic eyes, the strength of a river lord. It's completely the same as that black Jiao. We have to be careful. You know, this guy is related to the aberrant. Even that idiot Chunyo was defeated by this black Jiao. Do you think you can beat Chunyo? The one who spoke was a demon beast that had a human figure but a dragon head. The 4 claws that were exposed were not human. Instead, they looked like the claws of a tiger or leopard. The blue-bearded demon beast was speechless. After a while, he said in a muffled voice, although Chunyo was defeated, I heard that he was defeated by the aberrant. It has nothing to do with that black Jiao, right? Furthermore, Chunyo wasn't at his peak at that time. If he had more than 50% of his strength, the Dragon Palace wouldn't have allowed him to retreat from the front line. Speaking of this, the blue-bearded demon beast paused and added, I'm not trying to pick on you, but this time, the Dragon Palace is really making a big fuss. They sent 7 of their dragon sons. God knows how many holes there will be on the battlefield for the aberrant to take advantage of. When we go back, I don't know how many people will die. Second brother frowned. He stared at the blue-bearded demon beast and said, making a big fuss. I don't need 3 moves to kill you, but Chunyo can suppress me for 200 years. Even if he is seriously injured and can't use 50% of his strength, killing you is as easy as flipping his hand. Even he was defeated. If that guy is really the Black Jiao, do you think you can go back alive? Speaking of this, second brother changed the topic and said coldly, how can you be sure that the aberrant who killed Chunyo has nothing to do with the Black Jiao? It is not by the Black Jiao's side right now. The blue-bearded demon beast pursed his lips but didn't dare to refute. Although they were one of the 9 sons of the dragon, Chonyo and Yazi were indeed very special existences. It could even be said that since Chonyo and Yazi were chosen as the 9 sons of the dragon 200 years ago, the other 7 sons of the dragon had more or less been replaced by new ones. However, these 2 firmly occupied the first and second positions of the 9 sons of the dragon. Whether it was the other 9 sons of the dragon or the aberration, none of them could threaten their lives and positions. Chapter 704. He's here. Without waiting for the blue-cheeked beast to continue speaking, Yazi's face flashed with hostility as it spoke in a deep voice. As his voice faded, the remaining 6 members of the Dragon 9 Sons all stood up and coldly stared at the teleportation light screen that had suddenly appeared. Looking at their slightly bulging muscles, one could tell that if there were any abnormalities, they would directly attack the existence on the other side of the light screen. Lord Yazi, this is the registrant I reported earlier. You can call him the Hidden Dragon. The first to walk out of the light screen was Cyrus. At this moment, there was a faint smile on its twisted octopus face. Unknowingly, a strange fragrance spread in the Siren Guild's inn. If one did not distinguish it carefully, it would be easy to mix this fragrance with the fragrance of wine. However, at this moment, the 7 dragon sons were in a state of high tension, so the slightest abnormality immediately alerted them. As Yazi's expression changed, the 7 dragon sons all took out their weapons and looked at Cyrus with a gloomy expression. Cyrus's expression did not change at all. It smiled and waved its tentacles, saying indifferently, "My lords, there's no need to have such a big reaction. This is drunken whale fragrance." Among the 9 dragon sons, a petite demon beast with long purple hair but the face of a worm dragon frowned slightly and interrupted Cyrus. "You know your stuff." "As expected of Lord Fu Shi." Cyrus murmured and gave the purple-haired dragon a thumbs up before obediently shutting its mouth. Fu Shi's expression turned cold as she said in a cold voice, "When you left, you didn't have the smell of drunken whale fragrance on you. You didn't deliberately dress up, did you?" "As far as I know, drunken whale fragrance has a strong hallucinogenic effect. In ancient times, the weak monsters developed this thing in order to hunt the descendants of the whale clan, the overlord of the sea." "What are you trying to do?" "Lord Fu Shi, please don't misunderstand. When I arrived at the Siren Inn, His Excellency the Hidden Dragon had something to deal with, so he asked me to wait for a while. I thought that I would be meeting you later, so I deliberately sprayed some drunken whale fragrance, hoping to leave a good impression on you. The current overlords of the Endless Sea are the Dragon Clan of the 4 Seas. Even the Whale Clan, which used to flourish in the past, is nothing but a bunch of clay chickens and pottery dogs in front of the Dragon Clan of the 4 Seas. This drunken whale fragrance has a miraculous effect on them, but it has no effect on the demon beasts of other clans." Cyrus waved its hand gently. Cyrus's skin was visibly flushed, as if it was a little scared and a little shy. "I'm afraid that's not the case." The blue-bearded demon beast held a 16-sided prismatic hammer in each of his hands and said coldly, "The drunken whale fragrance is indeed only effective on demon beasts with the bloodline of the whale clan. However, as long as the formula is slightly changed, the drunken whale fragrance will become another kind of drug. It is a hallucinogen that is effective on any creature. Combined with illusionary techniques, it can achieve astonishing control effects." Speaking of this, the blue-bearded monster changed the topic and said coldly, "What are you trying to do?" "Ha!" Cyrus let out a hollow laugh and did not reply. Instead, he silently moved to the side and made space for Zhang Heng. Immediately, Lin Yuan, covered in golden scales, slowly walked out of the teleportation light curtain. Yazi sized up Lin Yuan and said coldly, "Black Jiao, put away your camouflage. Even if the scales on your body have turned golden, your special eyes can't fool us." "Pfft," Lin Yuan sneered and shook his head. He said casually, "Camouflage. That's not the case. I never thought that I could fool you. Just like you said, my appearance can only fool some ocean demon beasts that don't have access to the secrets. Just with this pair of eyes, the dragon palace of the four seas can recognize me. So I was wondering whether I should try my luck or fight my way out. It seems that you are not very lucky. Fu Zui shook his right hand and held an iron folding fan in his hand. He said casually, "You probably didn't expect that the Guild of Sea Demons would have to go through the vetting process after you joined, did you? If it weren't for the fact that your background is unknown and the Guild of Sea Demons reported your information to us, it would have been really difficult for us to catch you after you got the Guild seal." This did not mean that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas could not find Lin Yuan after he became a member of the Siren Guild. However, Lin Yuan was in Willow Rock waters, after all. The native forces here were at odds with the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas. In addition, the Siren Guild was also a force that the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas were wary of. If Lin Yuan was determined to stay here, even the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas wouldn't be able to forcibly take him away. After all, that would be equivalent to declaring war on both Willow Rock Waters and the Siren Guild. The Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas couldn't afford to add insult to injury. "No, I'm very lucky." Lin Yuan grinned, revealing a sinister smile, and said in a deep voice, "Because I thought of a third option." The 7 members of the 9 sons of the Dragon clan were confused. The most bad-tempered blue-bearded beast snorted coldly and said with a sullen face, "I advise you to surrender. You know what you mean to the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas. As long as you cooperate with us obediently, we can still entertain you, the ruler of the northern frontier, with good food and drinks. What if I don't?" Lin Yuan tilted his head and asked with a puzzled expression. "Then don't blame us for not holding back. We'll cripple you and bring you back." Fu Qian waved the iron folding fan in his hand and said with a hint of mockery, "Why do you have to do that? We're all dragon bloodline beasts and should be as close as a family. As long as you cooperate with us, the Dragon Clan of the Four Seas will be your backing. It's better than being a local tyrant struggling to survive, right?" At this point, Fu Qian paused, glanced at Cyrus, and said indifferently, "Besides, we've seen through your little trick. The drunken whale fragrance won't work on us." "Who said that the drunken whale fragrance will be used on you?" Cyrus, who had been acting like a lackey before, suddenly grinned, revealing a sinister smile that was not inferior to Lin Yuan's. He said coldly, "For the smooth performance of the script, the 7 of you must stay clear-headed. Otherwise, this show won't be able to continue." The 7 sons of the Dragon clan looked puzzled at the same time. They could not tell what was going on in the octopus beast's mind. He was just a receptionist of a small guild. Even if he killed him, it would be for nothing. Now that Lin Yuan had been exposed and their little trick had failed, if this octopus beast said that he was coerced by Lin Yuan, there would still be a chance of survival, right? Chapter 705. However, this octopus monster did the exact opposite. Was it not Lin Yuan who was at a disadvantage, but the 7 of them? What kind of joke was this? Putting aside the fact that there was an intermediate Demon King stage Z, the other 6 members of the Dragon 9 Sons were also early Demon Kings. Moreover, they were all titled Demon Kings. Ordinary intermediate Demon Kings might not be a match for them. The Black Jiao was only a late Demon King. No matter how powerful he was only a half-Demon King. Could it be that if they really fought, they would be the ones to lose? The Dragon Palace of the Four Seas declared war on the outer sea monsters. Even the Sea Monster Guild was included in the attack. The Golden Shrimp Clan in the Willow Rock Sea and the Red Crab Clan in the Hazy Sea were all annihilated. Also, the Sea Monster Guild stronghold in the Willow Rock Sea was destroyed. A large number of guild members died in battle. Under the combined efforts of the 7 Dragon Sons, all the resistance forces were annihilated. A total of 3 Demon Kings died in battle, including the Willow Rock Sea's master, the guardian of the Willow Rock Sea, and the head of the Sea Monster Guild in the Willow Rock Sea. Only a few survivors escaped and complained about the atrocities of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. What do the Seven Lords think of this script? The corners of Cyrus's mouth were wide open, and the smile on its face was sickly. As a freak who liked to control the fate of other creatures and watch them get annihilated under its own arrangements, Cyrus was really having fun at this moment. These were the 7 dragon sons. The top battle sequence of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. If they couldn't come up with a reasonable explanation, the entire Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would be kicked out of the Sea Monster Guild. Then, the outer sea monsters would join forces with the escaped evil dragon and the Sea Monster Guild to declare war on the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. The entire endless sea would be engulfed in the flames of war. This could be said to be the biggest game Cyrus had ever played since it became famous. Don't even think about it. Fu Shi's expression changed. He roared and pounced forward. Patter! Cyrus snapped his fingers and stepped back into the teleportation screen, leaving behind a drawn-out voice. I've already said before that the drunken whale incense is not to be used on the 7 of you. Now that you know the script, I'm sure the 7 of you know how to cooperate with the performance, right? As soon as it finished speaking, the remaining monsters in the Sea Monster Guild all pounced on the dragon sons with bloodshot eyes. Even Negative Centipede, who had the fastest reaction, was intercepted by the 4 Peak River Lord level monsters and failed to break through the teleportation light screen to intercept Cyrus. Although the 4 monsters were no match for Negative Centipede, it was already over by the time Negative Centipede finished the battle. Lin Yuan and Cyrus stepped into the teleportation light screen. Bastard! Don't let me know who you are. Fu Qian cursed loudly, his expression ugly to the extreme. Was a Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was a dragon son Cyrus. Cyrus was the Dragon Palace. Cyrus of. Cyrus was. Cyrus was. Of. Lin Yuan did not plan to cooperate from the beginning. However, he did not plan to do it himself this time. In their perception, more and more demonic beasts began to rush to the battlefield. Although there was a mix of good and bad demonic beasts, there were still quite a number of demonic beasts with some strength. As the number increased, even if the 9 sons of the Dragon Clan worked together, there was still a lot of pressure. In the name of the Supreme Honorable, I'm here to proclaim the name of my master. My master's name is Cyrus Robin. You mortals like to call him Virtuoso. A controlled sea monster at the level of a river lord roared. It then recited the lines that Cyrus had prepared for it with a fervent expression. As soon as it finished speaking, the sea monster was hammered into a pile of minced meat by the blue-bearded monster. The 7 dragon sons stood back to back, on guard against the increasing number of attackers. The blue-bearded monster clenched its teeth and said coldly, Cyrus, that bastard. I was wondering why we couldn't catch that loach. It turned out that it secretly joined the Sea Monster Guild and was hiding in the Willow Rock waters. We're in big trouble this time. Cyrus didn't know how long they had been setting up this place, but it was certain that the monsters gathered here weren't simply controlled by the drunken whale incense and an illusion. Ordinary methods wouldn't be able to wake them up. Now, they could either fight their way out or be trapped here until they died. As for capturing one alive, waiting for its control to be released, and then using it to proclaim the truth, it probably would not work at all. Cyrus, whose notoriety had spread throughout the endless sea, was known as the Virtuoso. In terms of intelligence, it was definitely one of the top sequences in the endless sea. Naturally, it was impossible for it not to figure out such a simple countermeasure. Therefore, it was obvious that either this control method could not be released at all, or they could not take anyone alive. Those survivors were probably one of the backup plans that Cyrus had arranged. Once the incident here broke out, it would immediately spread throughout the endless sea. Even if all 7 of them died here, they would have to bear the blame for it. The 7 dragon sons did not stay on the battlefield against the great old ones. Instead, they appeared in the Willow Rock waters, which had always been at odds with the Dragon Palace. This matter could not be explained. Even if the existence of the Black Jiao was used as an explanation, the Sea Monster Guild would be dissatisfied and would quickly realize that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was planning to escape. When that happened, the Sea Monster Guild would probably take action personally and directly capture or kill Lin Yuan. They would block the escape route that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas had arranged and force the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas to fight to the death with the Great Old Ones. This was in line with the common interests of most of the monsters in the Endless Sea. Since death was meaningless, no one would be willing to die. However, if they killed their way out, they would inevitably encounter the heavyweights of the Willow Rock waters. Even if they showed mercy, it would be meaningless. The controlled monsters were unreasonable and would fight to the death as soon as they met. Even if they showed mercy, they would have to beat the other party until they could not stand up. At that time, even if they did not attack, there would be other backup plans that Cyrus had arranged to kill these heavyweights and pour a basin of dirty water on the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Think of a way to break through quickly and go back to discuss countermeasures with the Dragon King. Yazi also showed the aura of a leader at this moment and said in a deep voice, "Don't show mercy. If you are caught, immediately self-destruct. Don't leave your body in the hands of the other party. At that time, you can still say that it's not our dragon sons. Otherwise, if Cyrus catches evidence, you will never be able to clear your name." Chapter 706. Cyrus was probably the only one who knew how long it had been hiding in the Willow Rock waters. After controlling the higher-ups of the Willow Rock waters through various means, Cyrus did not act immediately. Instead, it quietly operated the Willow Rock waters. On the surface, it was a receptionist of the Willow Rock waters branch of the Siren Guild, but in fact, it was the ruler of the entire waters. This was also the reason why Lin Yuan previously discovered that regardless of strength or status, all the higher-ups of the Willow Rock waters were wary of Cyrus. This operation was not because Cyrus had changed its nature. It was because the Willow Rock waters was too special. It was not far from the Sin Dragon Pool, and its strength was not weak. In addition, the Willow Rock waters had always been at odds with the West Sea Dragon Palace. It was simply the best hiding place for all the sirens who had a grudge against the West Sea Dragon Palace. As a matter of fact, the reason the Willow Rock Sea area was able to take root here was because of the demon beasts that shared a border with the West Sea Dragon Palace and even the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas. It was because of these demon geniuses that the lobster was qualified to challenge the West Sea Dragon Palace. In the beginning, the Willow Rock waters were only dissatisfied with the West Sea Dragon Palace. Later on, the conflict between the Willow Rock waters and the West Sea Dragon Palace had become a strategy for survival. Once the Willow Rock waters submitted to the West Sea Dragon Palace, the sirens who had a grudge against the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas would immediately leave the Willow Rock waters even if they did not rebel against the lobster. By then, the strength of the entire waters would rapidly decline. In addition to the past grudges, even if the West Sea Dragon Palace did not suppress the Willow Rock waters, the surrounding sirens would not let go of this fat piece of meat. Over time, the Willow Rock waters had become a thorn in the flesh of the West Sea Dragon Palace that could not be removed. The biggest advantage of setting up here was that they could wait for an opportunity. For example, there was a great possibility of provoking the Siren Guild to be hostile to the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas. It could even lead to an all-out war, directly damaging the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas, or even destroying the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas, a powerful force that had dominated the Endless Sea for many years. It was like a gambler who always wanted to bet big. As a master of fortune, Cyrus always wanted to plan a tragic war that would affect the entire Endless Sea. After a long period of operation, the Willowstone Sea area had become stronger day by day, but there had never been a suitable opportunity. When Lin Yuan appeared, Cyrus was like a shark that smelled blood. It immediately exposed its ferocious side and broke out all its trump cards and reserves. The 7 sons of the Dragon King were trapped in a quagmire, unable to extricate themselves. Cyrus, on the other hand, was able to easily stay out of the matter and become a spectator watching the show. So, what exactly are you after? Lin Yuan glanced sideways at the excited Cyrus and asked in a low voice. He always felt that there was something wrong with this guy's brain. It was not the kind of mental retardation, but more like a mental illness. Even Lin Yuan had to admit that the play was arranged and directed by Cyrus, and he was just a cameo in the play. Moreover, he was only a minor character who left after a few lines. Of course, he was useful. But if it were any other demon beast in his position, as long as the conditions were right, they could have done the same thing easily. However, it was one thing to admit Cyrus's ability, and another to like it or not. For example, if a transmigrator entered a low-level martial arts world and became a feudal lord, and also obtained a system that allowed them to summon civil and military officials, when choosing a strategist, most people would choose those with good reputations, such as Zhuge Liang and Guojia. It didn't matter whether it was an open scheme or a conspiracy. However, no one would like people like Gue Guzi and Yao Guangxiao to become their advisors and strategize. Such advisors were too restless. Although they did not have the ambition to ascend the throne, they liked to go against the heavens and change fate. They treated the world as a chessboard and used heroes as chess pieces to play. They implicated many people who could have lived a peaceful life and burned the flames of war to places that should not be ignited by the flames of war. Cyrus was such an existence. However, compared to people like Gue Guzi and Yao Guangxiao, it was at most a third-rate character. Gue Guzi used people as chess pieces and controlled the fate of a country. Yao Guangxiao started the game with a bad hand and played Emperor Yongle, while Cyrus could only hide behind the scenes and fan the flames. Although it guided the situation, it still depended on luck whether it would succeed. There was no need to elaborate on how big the gap was. For what? Well, for fame, of course. Cyrus was stunned by Lin Yuan's question. It paused for a moment and then said with a smile, "You and I are not mortals. Mortals only live once, and those who are capable want to live forever. Unfortunately, my talent is not good enough. My cultivation base has reached the limit of Demon King. It is not a problem for me to live for thousands of years. Immortality is too far away from me, so I can only seek immortality through other means." Lunatic. Lin Yuan curled his lips and did not comment on Cyrus's words. It doesn't matter if I'm a madman or a villain, I still have a reputation. 1,000 years later, maybe I'll be dead, but when the mortals talk about history, they can't ignore the existence of certain creatures. My goal is to become one of them. If I live my life in mediocrity, even if my cultivation base is unparalleled and unmatched, so what? Times were always changing. Only the existence that pushed the direction of history could be called immortal. Otherwise, who could prove that your existence was not made up in a story? I don't want to be a mediocre person, so I want to ignite the flames of war in the entire endless sea. I want everyone who mentions my name to be afraid, and I want countless later generations to know that Cyrus Robin once existed in this world. Cyrus's lips curled up slightly as it said with a smile. Lin Yuan was silent for a moment, then said expressionlessly, "You have the talent to become the cursed fate of 10,000 swords, so why do you want to be tainted with a bad reputation? People will curse you when they mention you. Is that what you want?" Qiao Yuan was a member of the royal family of the Myriad Swords dynasty, and he was a well-deserved valiant general in the past. When he was still alive, he could break through thousands of armies. Even when he was old and dying, he could still suppress people like Lei Qiuxing and Yan Xingqi, who did not dare to show the slightest bit of ambition. It was only after Qiao Yuan died of illness that the era of the Myriad Swords dynasty came to an end. You see, you can only think of Qiao Yuan. Cyrus sneered and said with disdain, "There are plenty of people who want to be good ministers. However, there are so many countries on the Tianwu continent. Other than Qiu Yuan, who is extremely talented, do you think you can find a second person who is famous in the Seven Empires and is known as the #1 general since ancient times? This path is too slow and inefficient, and it might not even succeed. It's not suitable for people like me." Chapter 707. Since you and I have achieved our goals, let's part ways here. Lin Yuan had no intention of pulling back a lunatic who had gone astray. After all, he had no evidence to prove that Cyrus was wrong. Putting aside this world where the seven empires fought against each other and where the guardians of the heavenly gates stood above the secular world, even in the world where he lived in his previous life, the history of the Han people had been recognized for close to 5,000 years. The level of civilization in every era was enough to stand proudly at the top of the world. Every dynasty could be said to be filled with shining generals and talented people. But how many people could be called the pillars of a country, and how many people were there that could support the collapse of a great building? For example, the #1 general of the Three Kingdoms period, Lu Bu. Whether it was at that time or later, he was said to be brave. If he was loyal to the Han dynasty, he might become an existence comparable to Wei Qing. But in reality, this sentence was just a form of flattery. If Lu Bu did not become a slave of 3 surnames and walked the path of loyalty to the Han dynasty, he might still be a famous general, but he might not be comparable to Wei Qing. But one thing was for sure. Lu Bu who was loyal to the Han dynasty would definitely not be comparable to Lu Bu who was a slave of 3 surnames. There were 3 generals at the end of the Han dynasty. All of them were existences who could suppress the feudal lords of the world. For example, Cao Cao and Yuan Shao had worked under these 3 generals. However, in terms of reputation, these 3 generals were too low. This was the price of being a failure in history. Even if Lu Bu was loyal to the Han dynasty, he could not change the direction of the Eastern Han dynasty's destruction. At that time, his reputation might not even be as good as the 3 generals at the end of the Han dynasty. Cyrus was not weak. In the endless sea, it was known as the virtuoso. However, if it walked the righteous path, it might not be able to catch up to Li Zhong. In the end, it would fade into the crowd. This was not a matter of ability but a matter of perspective. Therefore, in Lin Yuan's eyes, Cyrus was at most a second-rate strategist. Cyrus narrowed its eyes and sized up Lin Yuan. It suddenly smiled and said, "Amazing. I thought you would persuade me to do good and then follow you back to the northern frontier and become your right-hand man. If I persuade you to do good, will you do it?" Lin Yuan glanced at Cyrus from the corner of his eyes and asked faintly. Cyrus was silent. Lin Yuan was also silent for a moment before he opened his mouth to break the silence. He said indifferently, "In my hometown, there's a saying that it's easy to change mountains and rivers, but hard to change one's nature. No matter what your nature is, since you've chosen to be a virtuoso, you can only force yourself to walk this path to the end. If you change your path halfway, the end result won't be very good. If that's the case, I've learned a lot." Cyrus nodded, an obscure light flashing in his eyes. Lin Yuan took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Your years of planning didn't go to waste. It even had an effect that exceeded your expectations. I also got the Siren Guild member seal from you. It's a win-win situation. Then, let's go our separate ways. Are you really not going to persuade me? Maybe I'll agree to it." Cyrus winked at Lin Yuan and said in a mocking tone, "I wouldn't have bothered if it were an ordinary organization trying to recruit me, but you're different from your northern frontier. A country where humans and monsters coexist. TSK, TSK. Even if those ancient sages came back from the dead, they wouldn't be able to do something like that. Yet, you've succeeded. The current northern frontier has the potential to replace the Xinwu dynasty and become one of the 7 dynasties. But I already have a right-hand man. I don't need your help. Lin Yuan shook his head. He went around Cyrus, who was blocking his way, and continued swimming forward. That's where you're wrong. If you want to build a country where humans and monsters coexist, you have to ensure that the monsters and humans under your command are always on the same level. It won't do for either side to have too much momentum. But look at the northern frontier now. Almost all the management is made up of humans. When you were at the northern frontier, you were able to suppress them and get them to live in harmony with the monsters. But can you guarantee that you'll always be able to suppress them? Can you guarantee that you'll always have the energy to take care of the northern frontier? Black Zhao, I'm very interested in the northern frontier, so I've done a lot of research. Even you, the Blackwater Dragon King, have been ostracized by the people of the northern frontier because of your origins as a monster. They'd rather praise Li Zhong, who you've supported, than admit that the northern frontier has always been under your control. As a monster, I don't care about the attitude of the monsters in the northern frontier toward humans, but I do care about the attitude of the humans in the northern frontier toward the monsters. Have you never thought that by the time you return to the northern frontier, the humans and the monsters will already be at war? Have you easily destroyed all the hard work you've put in over a year? Cyrus's words were somewhat bewitching. In a flash, it appeared in front of Lin Yuan again. Lin Yuan looked at Cyrus, who was blocking his way again, with a cold gaze. He didn't say anything, but waves of uncontrollable killing intent erupted from his body. I don't know how many people in the management of the northern region are loyal to you, but I'm sure that the reason why they don't dare to rebel against you is because you gave them a stage to show their abilities. That's more important than their respect for you. Black Zhao, I'm not trying to brag, but you do need me because none of the monsters around you are presentable. They can help you destroy cities and strongholds, but they can't help you govern the northern frontier. Restraining the monsters under you to maintain goodwill toward the northern frontier is already their limit. You need a group of management who are monsters. Even if they leave you, they won't be inferior to the humans in the northern frontier. Isn't that right? You want a prosperous and stable northern frontier where the two races coexist, and I want a stage where I can leave my name in history and let the future generations know of my existence. This is much more interesting and effective than manipulating the various forces to attack and destroy each other. It seemed that Cyrus was really interested in becoming an official in the northern frontier. When it said this, it had a fanatical look on its face. That's right. Even if you can't do it, destroying such an existence will make your name as a virtuoso in the history of the Tianwu continent. Lin Yuan replied coldly, I don't think you have the ability to control the monsters in the northern frontier. Don't talk about being an equal. If you leave me and don't use those dirty tricks, you'll only be toyed to death by Li Zhong and the others. What makes you think I'll recruit you and send a ticking time bomb to the northern frontier? Cyrus's breathing stagnated as it looked at Lin Yuan in disbelief. It swallowed the rest of its words and looked at Lin Yuan as if it was looking at a monster. Chapter 708. You have the strength of a demon king. In the northern frontier, you can be said to be a unique existence. However, strength is not enough for you to rely on. Back then, it was extremely difficult for the 7 empires to cultivate a Heaven Dipper realm cultivator. However, I have the confidence to make all the cultivators in the northern frontier step into the Heaven Dipper realm and even higher realms within 3 years. Great strength is not something that is unattainable for the northern frontier. I only need 5 years for the northern frontier to catch up with any of the 7 empires. If I have 10 years, not to mention the other empires, even the Dragon Palace of the 4 Seas won't be in my eyes. As for your wisdom and strategy, they are not worth mentioning in my eyes. Because with enough time, the northern frontier can defeat any opponent fair and square. The so-called schemes are just a joke in the face of absolute strength. You are used to playing tricks, using all kinds of drugs and illusions to control other creatures. However, in the end, you only bring destruction. Political views such as people's livelihood and prosperity are too foreign to you. If you want to enter the northern frontier, you have to learn from the beginning. Since you have to learn from the beginning, why do I have to recruit you? With the existence of the Northern Frontier Academy, it can provide me with an endless stream of talents every year. Moreover, they are talents born according to my plan, aren't they? As for the trouble you speak of, it has never happened before, and it will never happen in the future. Because your understanding of me is based on hearsay and rumors. Even if you have a high opinion of me in your heart, it won't be as high as those who have survived my baptism in the northern region. Not to mention that they can't take care of the northern frontier. Even if I am trapped in the endless sea, they will not dare to act rashly. Even if the news of my death reaches the northern frontier one day, it will be the same. Before they see my corpse with their own eyes and confirm that I am really dead, they will not dare to do anything. Instead of saying that I need a demonic beast force that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the humans in the northern frontier, it is better to say that even if the humans in the northern frontier unite, they can only submit to me. No matter how strong they are, no matter how rich they are, as long as I don't allow it, they won't be able to use it at all. This is the true face of the northern frontier. Do you understand? Lin Yuan stared at Cyrus indifferently, shook his head, and added, "You're worthless to the northern frontier right now. Not only do we need to invest resources and time to nurture you, but if you're not capable enough and fail your studies, you'll also become a hidden danger to the northern frontier. When the disadvantages outweigh the advantages, what right do you have to join the northern frontier?" Cyrus was lost for words again. It could only stare at Lin Yuan in a daze. After a long while, Cyrus sighed and said bitterly, "I understand." Since he had already said so much, it would be a waste of breath to say anything else. However, Lin Yuan changed the topic and said in a low voice, "As you said, it's true that I hope to build a nation where humans and demonic beasts coexist, so nurturing a demonic beast force is inevitable. Since you have the confidence to stand shoulder to shoulder with Li Zhong, the human king of the northern frontier, I'll give you a chance." Cyrus's expression changed, and its dejection was swept away. It looked at Lin Yuan eagerly. Only mediocre people did not like challenges. For those who were capable, any challenge was an opportunity for them to ascend to a higher realm. Building a nation where demonic beasts and humans coexisted was something that even the ancient sages could not do. If Lin Yuan could really accomplish it, then Lin Yuan would become an existence that surpassed the ancient sages. By then, all those who followed Lin Yuan as a leader, regardless of race or past, would be able to leave a mark in history as long as they played a role. This was much more interesting than becoming a virtuoso who terrorized the endless sea. My request is simple. After today, the Willowstone waters will be destroyed, and the nearby sea demon forces will definitely set their eyes on this fat piece of meat. I want you to gather the survivors of the Willowstone waters, replace that lobster as the ruler, and establish this area as our base. I'll provide you with all the help I can, and what you need to do is to make this place stronger and more prosperous than before. If you can do this, I'll admit that I was wrong before. After I'm done with the endless sea, I'll bring you back to the northern frontier. By then, I'll make you the ruler of the demonic beasts in the northern frontier. You'll be on par with Li Zhong as the king of the northern frontier. He'll rule over humans, and you'll rule over demonic beasts. How does that sound?" Lin Yuan swayed his black tail, and a meaningful look appeared in his eyes. "By then, as long as it doesn't affect the development of the northern frontier, I don't mind how you fight with Li Zhong. There can only be one righteous god in the northern frontier, but there can be one or two kings, right? I'll do it." Cyrus's eyes shone with a strange light as it agreed loudly. As one of the top intelligent villains in the endless sea, Cyrus did not doubt its ability at all. Whether it was rebuilding the Willow Rock Sea region or going to the northern frontier to fight with Li Zhong, Cyrus felt that it could win. Only such a challenging task could arouse the interest of a strong person. If Lin Yuan had casually arranged some simple tasks for it and called them a test, Cyrus would have doubted Lin Yuan's sincerity. Therefore, the difficulty level was just right. Then, work hard. Lin Yuan nodded at Cyrus. The flood dragons and their other minions flashed out from the side and stood respectfully behind Lin Yuan. They don't have names for now. You can call them Flood Dragon 1 to Flood Dragon 4. Consider them your subordinates. They have the same bloodline as me. Although they're still very weak now, their growth won't be slow. Moreover, they're absolutely loyal to me. If I hand them over to you, they won't hesitate even if you ask them to die. Also, no matter how far away they are, they have the ability to contact me directly. Therefore, they'll report everything you do to me truthfully. At the same time, if you need my help, you can contact me through them. Perhaps I'll send you more helpers after a while, but for now, this is all I can give you. Lin Yuan smiled at Cyrus, although it looked a little ferocious. Not only did these minions have the same bloodline as him, but they were also fanatics. There was no doubt about their loyalty. As for the method of direct contact regardless of distance, it was called prayer in his previous life. Believers could contact their God even if they were separated by the heavenly realm and the human realm. Moreover, the Tianmu continent was an incomplete world. There was only the human realm. Therefore, as long as they prayed, they would be able to contact Lin Yuan. Chapter 709. Cyrus did not know that even if it completed Lin Yuan's plan, it could not escape the fate of being thrown aside or even destroyed as a tool once it lost its value. From the very beginning, Lin Yuan had no intention of sincerely recruiting Cyrus. It was not that Lin Yuan was indifferent, but there were countless bloody examples in the history books of his previous life. He told Cyrus that a leopard cannot change its spots was a nice way to put it. To put it bluntly, it meant that a leopard could not change its spots. As a villain who liked to use underhanded means to control other living beings, set up a trap to destroy a certain force, and seek pleasure in the process of bringing despair and destruction to other living beings. It hoped that its bad name would spread across the endless sea. To it, being positive and upward was not related at all. Cyrus' current attitude might be that it really wanted to become the pillar of the northern frontier, but its past experiences would keep chasing after it and corrode it again, turning it into the master of destiny of the past. If a villain could turn over a new leaf so easily, there would not be the saying that a prodigal son would turn over a new leaf. It was not that the northern frontier could not withstand the wind and rain, but there was no need for it to cause trouble for itself. Just as Lin Yuan said before, Cyrus had too many things to learn. Otherwise, it would not be able to establish itself in the northern frontier in the future, let alone fight against Li Zhong. Once Cyrus suffered a setback, even it could not guarantee that there would not be a bottom line for its methods. After leaving the four spawns with Cyrus, Lin Yuan departed for another region of the sea. Although the information was not verified, the Siren Guild was not a strict organization. As long as Lin Yuan had the Siren Guild seal in his hand, he was a member of the Siren Guild. Therefore, he had achieved his goal in the Willow Rock Sea. Now, Lin Yuan could go to any region of the sea. Even if he wandered around the West Sea Dragon Palace's territory, he would not have to worry about attracting the attention of the West Sea Dragon Palace unless the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas had the ability to fight against the Siren Guild, the Outer Sea Monsters, and the Evil Dragon faction. As for face, the Siren Guild might have given it to him in the past. But certainly not now. Although Cyrus was behind the destruction of the Willowstone Sea, the Siren Guild would definitely not believe it. After all, Cyrus had concealed its identity for a long time in order to set up a trap. The outside world thought that it was already dead. In addition, the Willow Rock region was not weak. With 3 demon kings guarding it, it was impossible to destroy the Willow Rock region without sufficient combat strength. In addition, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas couldn't possibly expose Lin Yuan's existence. If they did, the Sea Monsters Guild would cut off their escape route to the Martial Heaven continent. Combined with Willow Rock Sea region's destruction and Long Josie's appearance, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas wouldn't be able to wash away the scapegoat. Even the Siren Guild had to believe that it was Cyrus' handiwork. The Willow Rock region had been thriving quietly for so many years. Suddenly, 7 Long Josie's members were attracted and destroyed. How could there be such a coincidence? The Dragon Palace of the Four Seas could at most deny that the members who went to the Willow Rock region were Long Josie's members. However, the Sea Monsters Guild could find out who went to the Willow Rock region to investigate Lin Yuan's identity. Regardless of whether they were Long Josie's members or not, the identity of the Dragon Palace's members could not be washed away. Even if the Sea Monsters Guild did not directly declare war on the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas for the sake of the big picture, they would no longer maintain a friendly attitude towards the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas like before. At this time, as long as the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas dared to touch a member of the Sea Monsters Guild, they would immediately receive a storm of attacks from the Sea Monsters Guild. Other than making life more difficult for the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, there was no other meaning. 2 days later. West Sea Dragon Palace. Wearing a purple robe, the West Sea Dragon King looked at Yazi and Fu Su kneeling in front of him. His body kept trembling, as if he was forcefully suppressing his anger. He kept pursing his lips tightly, worried that he would have all Long Josie's members killed as soon as he opened his mouth. Dragon King, we know that we have made a big mistake this time. Please protect us on account of our loyalty to the Dragon King. When this matter is over, we will personally kill Cyrus and avenge today's humiliation. Fu Su's body was covered with all kinds of scars. At this moment, when he was kneeling on the ground, his forehead was tightly pressed against the luxurious spiritual stone tiles of the Dragon Palace. It was as if he had completely abandoned his pride as Long Josie. The Sea Monsters Guild was a behemoth that was not inferior to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. If the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas chose to keep the peace and hand them over, they would definitely have no way to survive. Even if the Dragon Palace only expelled them out of consideration for old time's sake, they would be ambushed by a large number of Sea Monsters Guild powerhouses halfway. Protect? How can I protect you? The Dragon King of the West Sea gritted his teeth. His vertical pupils were filled with resentment. He said coldly, "You Long Josie are really arrogant. This king only asked you to investigate if the flood dragon that suddenly appeared in the Willowstone Sea was the Black Jiao. Even if it was the Black Jiao, you just had to come back and report. The Dragon Palace will naturally make arrangements." Well, the 7 Long Josie directly came to the Willowstone Sea and fought over a disagreement. Now, the entire Willowstone Sea has been destroyed. In just a few days, the Dragon Palace annihilated 2 sea monster clans and destroyed an area of the sea. Even the branch of the Sea Monsters Guild was not spared. With such a monstrous disaster, how can I protect you? The Dragon Palace was not in a good situation at the moment. Even if Long Josie was tricked by Cyrus, the commotion caused by the sea monster clans were like sharks that smelled blood. All kinds of thoughts arose in their minds. It was likely that they would assemble an alliance to suppress the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas and demand an explanation. Otherwise, they would start a war directly. These sea monster clans did not know what the aberrant was. They only knew that the aberrant was very strong. Now that the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas had been defeated, they even had the thought of abandoning the Endless Sea and going to the Tianwu continent. Naturally, there was no doubt about who would rule the Endless Sea in the future. Leaving a good impression on the new boss, how could such a thing be rejected? As long as there was an opportunity, the sea monster clans would not be slaughtered by the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas like thousands of years ago. Instead, they would really assemble an alliance to attack them. The current situation was quite unfavorable for the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Fu Qian and Yazi did not speak. They just maintained their kneeling posture. If the Dragon Palace did not protect them, they would definitely die. So what if they were scolded? It's not that the Dragon Palace does not care about old friendships, but this matter cannot be done. The only thing this king can do is to send you away." The West Sea Dragon King did not receive a reply. He waved his hand impatiently and growled. Chapter 7:10. Is the Dragon King really so heartless? Yazi's expression changed as he said in disbelief. As the top fighting force of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, Long Josie had outstanding military achievements. Whether it was against the aberrations, the Dragon Palace's subordinates, or the outer sea monsters, Long Josie was the absolute vanguard. Long Josie's combat power was indispensable in sieging cities and breaking through enemy lines. Although demon kings were not rare in the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, even if they had a title, they could barely be considered as the top figure in the entire Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. With the death of Long Josie, there would soon be a newcomer of similar strength to replace him. However, the biggest difference between newcomers and veterans was never strength, but experience in dealing with all kinds of unexpected situations. Even an ancestral dragon was infected by the aberrations and turned into a monster, but Long Josie was able to become the main force against the aberrations. Only the members of Long Josie knew how much blood, tears they had to endure. Including the dead Chion Yo, now that the 7 Long Josie were expelled, it was equivalent to directly breaking up the team. The newcomers would barely be able to handle it. Therefore, Yazi could not understand why the West Sea Dragon King would expel them without hesitation. This did not make sense. Yazi, you are strong, and Fushi is smart. The two of you were the first to break through the encirclement and escaped back to the West Sea Dragon Palace, but did you pay attention to the news of the other members of Long Josie? Just before you came back, Chao Feng, Pu Lao, and Fushi were all killed. Fushi was still okay. Before he died, he detonated his demon core and demon power, dying together with a group of pursuers. But Chao Feng and Pu Lao were different. Chao Feng ran the slowest and was chased by a group of people. He couldn't fight against them and eventually died of exhaustion. Not only did he leave behind a complete corpse, he even had the proof of identity of Long Zhou's son. That bastard Pu Lao was even worse. Although he didn't get stuck in the mud, he was caught red-handed by the Sea Demon Guild. Under the Sea Demon Guild's methods, he confessed everything that he shouldn't have. Combined with what the survivors said and what Chao Feng said, he was still killed by the Sea Demon Guild in anger. Do you think you can still be saved? The Dragon King of the West Ocean waved his hand and said coldly, the fact that I haven't captured you and Fu and handed you over to the Siren Guild is already out of consideration for your contributions to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. These two bastards. Yazi's face changed again. It was so gloomy that water was about to drip out. Although Long Zhou's identity wouldn't be made public, the entire Endless Sea knew his identity. Previously, no one thought that Cyrus would set up such a big trap in the Willowstone Sea. Naturally, they didn't hide their identity in advance. But this detail didn't matter. After all, if they detonated their monster core and monster power, even a rare treasure would be destroyed on the spot, let alone a small identity. However, Yazi had never thought that Chao Feng and Pu Lao would actually not listen to him. Even when they could not escape, they still refused to self-destruct. In the end, not only did they end up in such a state, they even caused the others who had escaped to die. Sigh, let's run. The Dragon King of the West Ocean looked conflicted. He gritted his teeth and said, you caused such a big trouble. Logically speaking, you should be sent to the evil dragon pool to be suppressed to death. But the Sea Demon Guild will definitely not let this go. When the time comes, they will definitely come to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas and ask for you to be handed over. Even if I want to protect you, I can't. I know. Yazi lowered his head dejectedly, not daring to look directly into the eyes of the Dragon King of the West Ocean. Letting you go now is for the good of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. After all, The aberrations are running amok now. We are lucky to be able to withstand them. We won't dare to go to war with the Sea Demon Guild again. If they come to capture you, do you think I should hand you over or let the entire dragon race of the four seas be destroyed in order to protect you? Although the Sea Demon Guild is powerful, they are still a loose organization. If they want to cause trouble in the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, they will need time to gather strength. You can still leave now. If you leave too late, the Sea Demon Guild will stop you. However, we are of the same race. Although this king can't protect you, he won't sit by and watch you die. I will soon put you into the evil dragon register. When that time comes, you can go and find Eosifin. Although the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas is afraid of the Sea Demon Guild and starting a war with us, the evil dragons are different. They don't have to face the aberrations. Even if the Sea Demon Guild comes, as long as Eosifin is willing to protect you, at least you can still live normally in the seas controlled by the Dragon Palace. The West Ocean Dragon King sat back on his big chair and said with a gloomy gaze. If Eosifin is not willing to protect us, Fu Zhu, who had been silent, slowly raised his head and asked. Survival was the instinct of all living creatures. Not only humans, most living creatures would have a strong desire to survive and potential when they were between life and death. If it were any other day, Fu Zhu would never dare to speak to the West Ocean Dragon King like this. After all, the West Ocean Dragon King had already done everything he could. Not only did he not capture them and hand them over to the Sea Demon Guild to appease the monster's anger, but he also pointed out a way for them to live. This was already a great kindness. After all, the Dragon Nine Sons were the top fighting force of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. Other than the Dragon King of the Four Seas, any member of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would have to obediently address them as Lord. Therefore, no matter what happened, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would definitely try to protect the members of the Dragon Nine Sons. It would be a lie to say that the Dragon Nine Sons directly went into hiding after the destruction of the Willowstone region instead of escaping back to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. The West Ocean Dragon King had already gone to this extent and had already shed all pretense of cordiality with the Sea Demon Guild. Although he did not directly protect them, he responded to the Sea Demon Guild with his own attitude. He expressed that although the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas would not directly protect the seven Dragon Nine Sons, they would definitely not sit by and watch the Sea Demon Guild attack them. Although they would not let the two sides directly go to war, it was inevitable that they would become enemies. However, Fu Zhu was not satisfied. As the evil dragon lord, Eosifin was not afraid of anything. He would not even take half a step back in front of the Dragon King of the Four Seas. However, if he became enemies with the Sea Demon Guild for the sake of a few Dragon Nine Sons who were loyal to the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, Eosifin would probably have to think twice. After all, although Eosifin was an evil dragon who had committed unpardonable crimes and had now formed the evil dragon faction to publicly challenge the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, he was not a fool. He would not become a tool for the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas for no reason. That was why Fu Zhu suddenly opened his mouth and said this. Chapter 711. Shut up. Yazi coldly glanced at Fu Shi and immediately scolded him in a low voice. Even the West Sea Dragon King said that Fu Shi's brain was good, so Fu Shi was naturally not a reckless and ignorant demon beast. There was only one possibility for him to suddenly say such words: he was scared. However, no matter how scared he was, he should not have rashly offended the West Sea Dragon King, right? Even the bad-tempered Yazi had to admit that although the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas did not directly protect them, they were willing to risk the Sea Demon Guild's hostility to find a way out for them. They were indeed very benevolent. Now, he was forcing the West Sea Dragon King to find a way out for them, which was to roast the West Sea Dragon King on the fire. To be able to suppress the experts of the dragon race of the Four Seas and become one of the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas, how could he be easy to deal with? If the West Sea Dragon King got angry, not to mention giving them a way out, it was not impossible for him to directly capture them and hand them over to the Sea Demon Guild. Wasn't this King courting death? She was scolded by Yazi. Although he trembled and did not continue speaking, he still stared at the West Sea Dragon King with his hopeful eyes. Clearly, he had not given up and wanted to obtain a feasible way out from the West Sea Dragon King. It's fine. The West Sea Dragon King gently raised a dragon claw and sighed faintly. Whether it is Siphon or 8 distresses, although they are listed in the Evil Dragon Register, they are still part of the Four Seas dragon race. Previously, both of us were too radical in our views on this matter, so we ended up in such a situation. Now that the Four Seas dragon race is in danger, any power is extremely precious. This king has always wanted to mend the relationship with the evil dragon camp. Let this king think about it, think about it. Seeing that the Four Seas dragon king was deep in thought, Fushi's eyes turned. He gritted his teeth and said, Siphon and I are of the same generation, so I have some understanding of him. This fellow values fairness the most. It is not difficult to get him to protect us, and it is not difficult to even borrow the power of the evil dragon camp to deal with the aberrant. However, the prerequisite is that we have to give the corresponding reward. In my opinion, before he finished speaking, Fushi felt Yazi and the West Sea Dragon King's eyes on him. Gulp. Fushi swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He could vaguely feel a strong murderous intent from Yazi's eyes. In fact, Yazi not only wanted to kill Fushi, but also wanted to tear apart Fushi's damn mouth. Even if you want to die, you don't have to do this, right? When the West Sea Dragon King was in deep thought and did not speak, it meant that he did not want to continue this topic and gave them a chance to sneak away quietly. Fushi had not finished speaking, but Yazi realized that Fushi wanted to sell some confidential information of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas in exchange for Siphon's protection. Of course, this kind of thing could not be said openly. But strictly speaking, as the leader of the evil dragon camp, Siphon had been rescuing the evil dragons in the evil dragon pool to expand his own forces. Therefore, he was not completely unfamiliar with the secrets of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. The things that the Dragon King could come into contact with were not enough to arouse Siphon's interest. Therefore, Fushi wanted the Four Seas Dragon King to take the initiative to provide some secrets to win Siphon's favor. But the secrets of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, and they were secrets that only existences at the level of the Dragon King could come into contact with. How could it be so easily handed over to them? Did this bastard really not want to leave the Dragon Palace of the West Sea alive? It's not impossible. Unexpectedly, the West Sea Dragon King did not flare up on the spot. Instead, he seriously considered Fushi's suggestion. This scene made Fushi and Yazi feel relieved. They each let out a sigh of relief and showed an expression of being given a new lease of life. There are many secrets of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. This king does know a lot of them, but he will definitely not hand them over to the two of you. Even if this king is willing to tell you, it will be useless. Siphon will not easily trust you. In addition, once the secrets are leaked, the entire Dragon Palace of the Four Seas will launch a hunt for you. Are you sure you want to attract the attention of the powerful dragon race when you have offended the Siren Guild? This king only said that your suggestion is feasible because the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas has an important matter to attend to. Originally, they did not plan to involve the evil dragons. However, at this moment, the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas has offended the Siren Guild because of you. I'm afraid that they will immediately withdraw their defense line. Those Dragon Palace members who are traveling in other seas will also have to be recalled. Otherwise, they may attract the attention of the powerful Siren Guild. Therefore, this king can allow you to leak the Black Jiao's identity to Siphon and use the power of the evil dragon camp to continue the hunt for the Black Jiao. Remember to tell Ao Sifin that if she can capture the Black Jiao for us, we will immediately destroy the evil dragon register and accept them back into the dragon race of the Four Seas. When we return to the Tianwu continent, we will also give them a large area to live and reproduce. The West Sea Dragon King crossed his two dragon claws in front of him and said with narrowed eyes, "Remember, we can allow them to not participate in the war against the mutants." However, the Black Jiao has become the last retreat for the dragon race of the Four Seas. If he dares to do anything secretly, there will naturally be a spy who will contact me. When that time comes, don't blame us for ignoring the big picture and perishing together with him. This subordinate will remember. Fu Shi's face lit up and immediately replied in a deep voice. Go. The West Sea Dragon King waved his dragon claws and said with a complicated expression. At the same time, in the Qi Gorge Sea region, Lin Yuan and a dragon man in a golden robe stood opposite each other. After a while, the dragon man opened his mouth and revealed a ferocious smile to Lin Yuan. He said in a deep voice, "The Black Jiao suddenly appeared in front of me. It shouldn't be a coincidence. Therefore, I have to praise you. The Dragon King's ability is probably more terrifying than we expected. Even the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas or the Sea Demon Guild would not be able to find the hiding place of the evil dragon in such a short time. I'm not here to be polite." Lin Yuan revealed the same ferocious smile and said, "I have not had a good time in the Endless Sea. Whether it is the outer sea or the deep sea, the hostility towards me is too great. There are demon beasts who want to kill me at the slightest provocation. In addition, my temper is not good. There is no reason to take a beating and not fight back, is there?" "I understand." The smile on the dragonman's face slowly disappeared. He said with a serious expression, "Can I understand that the Blackwater Dragon King wants to borrow the power of the evil dragon to take revenge on the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas? If that is your intention, please forgive me for refusing." Chapter 7:12. This is really strange. According to what I've seen and heard, the relationship between the evil dragon and the dragon tribe of the Four Seas has always been bad. Even if I didn't come to visit, you wouldn't let go of the chance to attack the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas. So, it doesn't make much of a difference whether I come or not. But after I came to visit, you actually rejected me directly. I was curious about the reason. It couldn't be that the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas had been hiding their strength all this time. They were secretly hiding the power that could overturn the Endless Sea in an instant, right? If that's the case, I can understand your concerns. In the face of such a force, not to mention the Siren Guild, even the outer sea monster beasts and your evil dragon won't be enough, right? Lin Yuan's words were obviously more teasing. Obviously, it was impossible for the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas to hide a power of that level. Although the Great Old Ones were troublesome, it was actually not a big deal to the system. Because of the rules, the system could not give the host an impossible mission. Therefore, although all the hosts in the universe were carrying out a large-scale mission together, there would definitely be corresponding adjustments according to the differences in each world. At the same time, it also meant that the system believed that all the hosts had the ability to eliminate the Great Old Ones. This also meant that the power displayed by the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas was probably already at its limit. If the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas really had a trump card, then they wouldn't have been forced into such a situation. There was even a possibility that they were putting on an act. For example, the arrival of the 7 sons of the Dragon Palace in the Willowstone Sea region seemed to be a deployment of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, but perhaps only they themselves knew that the mobilization of the 7 sons of the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas meant a huge sacrifice on the front lines to fill the gap. The Dragon Palace of the Four Seas doesn't have any hidden trump cards. The only thing they have is the ancestral dragons who are still in hibernation. So, even the Sea Monster Guild alone can force the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas into a desperate situation, let alone us joining forces. The dragonman's face turned gloomy as he said, but no matter what, we evil dragons are still members of the dragon race. It's fine if we fight on a small scale, but when it comes to destroying the dragon palaces of the four seas, we won't do such a thing. If it was the Black Water Dragon King, would he also participate in the war to destroy the Hengduan Mountains? The Dragonborn's words left Lin Yuan speechless. The evil dragon was at odds with the dragon race of the four seas. This was something that the entire Endless Sea knew. Lin Yuan had thought of this as well, which was why he had come all the way to Evil Dragon's temporary headquarters. He hadn't expected to be rejected by Evil Dragon before he could even ask. This was indeed a difficult question to answer. Just like Lin Yuan, he was very clear that the world he lived in his previous life was a real low-level martial world. Those incomparably powerful people or demons in myths and legends had long been obliterated in the long river of history. Even if there were survivors, they would hide in some corner and not dare to show their faces. Not to mention an existence like Hong Jun, who was eyeing the heavenly Tao fragment that existed in his previous world. Even if there were cultivators or demonic beasts in the Tianwu continent who transmigrated to his previous world, they could be said to be invincible. The existence of the demonic king realm could even force the humans to take the risk of self-destruction. Hong Jun still hadn't found the coordinates of his previous world. However, one day, if Hong Jun were to open the gate of heaven to invade like he did to the Tianwu continent, the humans would definitely lose the war. However, when that day came, would Lin Yuan be able to go against his conscience and join Hong Jun's side to suppress the humans in his previous world? Obviously, it was impossible. Now, the evil dragon was facing the same problem. The once prosperous dragon palace of the four seas was now in imminent danger. As long as they were willing to add fuel to the fire and incite a war between the Sea Demon Guild and the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas, they could instantly destroy the colossus that was above them. Even if the Sea Demon Guild wasn't powerful enough, those demonic beasts from the outer sea who were eyeing covetously wouldn't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, if that happened, the dragon clan of the four seas would be destroyed. Would the evil dragon be able to live a good life? Soft-hearted. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes flashed with a cold light. He said with a cold face, "I didn't expect the great leader of the evil dragon to be so benevolent. As the leader of the evil dragon clan, isn't your biggest goal to destroy the dragon palace of the four seas to clear the name of yourself and the evil dragon under you? Once the dragon clan of the four seas is wiped out, you will be the new dragon clan of the four seas." I said, "Your goal is different from ours. Please forgive me for refusing." The Dragonborn chuckled and shook his head. He gave his answer again. Lin Yuan was silent for a moment. Suddenly, he smiled and said, "You can't say that. Although I didn't expect the evil dragon to have feelings for the dragon clan of the four seas, that's because we haven't interacted before. However, my eyes can't be wrong. Based on the West Sea Dragon King that I've interacted with, he definitely won't miss this opportunity to scheme against you evil dragons. Do you believe me?" "Ha!" The Dragonborn smiled disdainfully. He shook his head and said loudly, "Whether it's the evil dragon clan or the dragon clan of the four seas, in essence, they are all members of the dragon clan. Just like how we don't want the dragon clan of the four seas to be destroyed, how could the dragon clan of the four seas be willing to let us wither? You can't be thinking that we can save so many evil dragons every year because the dragon palace of the four seas is really useless, right?" Speaking of this, it paused and lowered its voice. Now that the Endless Sea is facing a great calamity, everyone knows that the dragon palace of the four seas has provoked a strong enemy. However, we, the dragon tribe, are the masters of the Endless Sea. We can't just watch the outsiders run amok, so we took the initiative to take on the task of resisting them. However, although the Dragon Palace of the Four Seas is strong, they still don't have a good chance of winning against those monsters. Lin Yuan understood what the Dragonborn meant. It was just like how the aristocratic families always liked to place bets in troubled times. Brothers from the same family, no matter how close they were, would never pledge allegiance to anyone in troubled times. Unless it was the will of the people or they were invincible, the descendants of the aristocratic families would pledge allegiance to different monarchs. They would attack each other or even kill each other personally to raise the status of the family or to protect the bloodline of the family in troubled times. If there were invaders in the endless sea, the dragon palace of the four seas might not be their match. If the evil dragon palace of the four seas became the enemy of the dragon palace of the four seas, even if the dragon palace of the four seas was defeated in the future, the dragon clan's bloodline could still be left in the endless sea. It sounded good, but in fact, it wasn't the case. These evil dragons were being used as meat shields by the dragon clan of the four seas. Chapter 7:13. Lin Yuan stretched his body and looked at the dragonoid meaningfully. He said calmly, "I have yet to ask for your name." Ao Sifin. The dragonoid pondered for a moment. Although it could not understand Lin Yuan's meaning, it still reported its name. Lin Yuan was known as the Blackwater Dragon King. Although he was disliked by the dragon clan of the four seas, it was undeniable that even without the support of the dragon clan of the four seas, Lin Yuan had still managed to develop his own force. Even if their forces were not the same, Lin Yuan was now the leader of a force. Therefore, the necessary respect could not be lacking. There were always some people in the world who thought that strength was the truth and that they could easily trample on anyone's dignity. But this was not right. Because it was not the truth that strength could dominate everything. It was a cruel law that all things were born from. Only the creatures at the bottom of the food chain who needed to struggle for survival would think that strength was everything. After evolving to a certain extent and giving birth to their own civilization, they would develop mutual respect. Just like the saying in Lin Yuan's previous life, when two countries went to war, they would not kill the envoys. This had nothing to do with national strength or personal relations. Even if there was a huge difference in strength between the two sides, the stronger side would not wantonly bully the weaker side. That was not only bullying the weak, but also disrespecting themselves. Ao Sifin understood this, and so did Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan. When he introduced himself, Lin Yuan looked at Ao Sifin with a meaningful gaze. He knew who Ao Sifin was. It was once a prodigy that the entire dragon palace of the four seas valued greatly. However, because it adopted a group of orphans during a war, it was viewed as a heretic by the dragon clan of the four seas. Because Ao Sifin was a direct descendant of the dragon clan of the four seas, not to mention its extraordinary talent, it could inherit a large and rich territory even if it just ate and waited for its death. Moreover, it insisted on giving the orphans it adopted the right to inherit. If that was all, it would be fine. After all, geniuses always had special privileges. However, among those orphans, not a single one had the dragon clan's bloodline. This also meant that after Ao Sifin died of old age, most of its territories would be inherited by demon beasts without dragon bloodline. The problem of bloodline could indeed be solved through intermarriage, but the dragon clan of the four seas was no longer the dragon clan of the four seas that had just descended on the Tianwu continent. They believed that the bloodline of the dragon clan was the noblest bloodline in the world. Some of the dragon clan's demonic beasts with insufficient bloodline density were not even qualified to intermarry and mate with the dragon clan's descendants, let alone mating with ordinary demonic beasts that did not even have a trace of bloodline. Moreover, this was not just a matter of bloodline. To put it simply, the deep sea area controlled by the dragon palace of the four seas was completely sealed off. Only dragon bloodline demon beasts could enter and leave. If some demon beasts without dragon bloodline became the lords of the deep sea, it meant that the demon beasts in the outer sea had a reason to reach into the deep sea. Thus, the initial debate turned into a battle. In the end, Ao Sifin was expelled from the dragon clan of the four seas, and the orphans it adopted were all killed by the dragon palace of the four seas. Not long after, Ao Sifin established the evil dragon camp. It believed that the dragon clan had embarked on a path of self-destruction, and was determined to reform the system and prejudice of the dragon palace of the four seas. The results were remarkable. In the past few years, more and more evil dragons had become evil dragons, and the evil dragon camp's strength grew rapidly. If not for a few true dragons that were still sleeping in the dragon palace to protect the dragon clan, the dragon palace of the four seas would have already had a new dragon king. But while Siffin's strength grew rapidly, it was not without a price. In the beginning, the evil dragon camp only had one evil dragon camp. Even after absorbing a few evil dragons, their style of doing things was mostly based on Siffin's opinion. But as their strength grew rapidly, the evil dragon camp quickly gave birth to many factions. There were reformists like Siffin, and some simple ambitious people, spies from the dragon palace of the four seas, etc. Siffin was still the leader of the evil dragon camp in name, but in reality, the evil dragon camp was no longer under Siffin's control. Once an order was given, other than his own troops, if he wanted to mobilize the other evil dragons, he would have to hold a meeting to discuss it. He would even have to give up a portion of his benefits to hire the other party to do things for him. It was similar to the overseas Hong sect in Lin Yuan's previous life. It was originally a group of Chinese people that worked together to fight for benefits. But later on, because of its size, it was targeted by some people with ulterior motives. The original dragon head had become a symbol, and every faction had their own right to speak and independence. Some of the branches were even controlled by foreigners or even foreigners. The similarity between the two was that there were external forces in charge, and they were no longer as pure. But Siffin's name was still like thunder. After all, the world in Lin Yuan's previous life was a low-level martial world. If one wanted to suppress the heroes, they had to rely on their reputation, ability, their parents' generation, and their own connections. But in the Tianwu continent, the strength of an individual could directly influence the direction of a large force. The northern frontier had Lin Yuan, and he always hid many trump cards, making people unable to see his real power. Countless evil spirits and monsters only dared to hide in the dark. The evil dragon camp had Siffin, but he didn't need to use any tricks or create mysteries. He used his own strength to suppress the evil dragon camp. Looking at your eyes, you seem to know who I am. Siffin and Lin Yuan looked at each other for a while. Siffin suddenly chuckled and said, "That's good. The Endless Sea doesn't have someone like you. They either don't know who I am, so they act like they don't care about me. But when they know who I am, they start to smile carefully. Or they know who I am, but they only treat me as a freak. They don't want to be friends with me sincerely. They just want to complete their mission or do their work." Speaking of this, it paused and continued, "Previously, you were directly rejected by me and asked for my name. Obviously, you have another excuse. Then, let's hear it. But before that, can you answer a question for me? How did you find this base?" I asked around. Lin Yuan smiled. He could find the base of the evil dragon camp because there were many members of the evil dragon camp in the black water of the Nether Realm. With the information and memories of the evil dragon camp, it wasn't hard to find a few bases of the evil dragon camp. Also, it's not that I have another excuse. My original intention hasn't changed. Lin Yuan's heterochromatic eyes sparkled. He said, "I heard that you created the evil dragon camp to change some bad habits of the dragon palaces of the four seas. You wanted the dragon tribes of the four seas to abandon the bloodline prejudice. But it's not realistic. I think after trying for so long, you have given up on this idea. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been assimilated by the dragon palaces of the four seas."